program here. The number, if you want to join us, is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
Of course, you can bring up absolutely anything that you want to discuss. Feel free to do that here tonight. As always, there's a lot of interesting things. We bring things to the table we think you're going to find interesting as well. But again, the phones are always open should you wish to join us here. People in the United States are becoming more concerned about inflation, understandably, because, well, it's not getting any better.
And it's affecting them.
And it's affecting everybody, especially poorer people, because inflation hurts those folks the most. But in related news, we've been covering what's been happening over in the European Union, specifically to countries like Germany and the UK, where they are suffering dramatically higher power bills already, and it hasn't even really gotten that cold yet. It's going to very soon. It's begun, of course, and now with the headline from RT.com, which is Russia Today, the Germans have failed their first gas-saving test. You might remember over the summer, the Russian energy company, which is a state-owned energy company, Gazprom, cut the Nord Stream 1 pipeline down to 20% of its normal volume, and then subsequently a month later cut it off entirely. Now Nord Stream 2 has been blown up by still heretofore unnamed sources, likely the United States military. And so two of the main, well, Nord Stream 2 was never utilized, but it was filled with gas, and all the Germans had to do was just basically press the, sign some paperwork and get it operating. Now it's, been broken. So they're down significantly, and the government people there have been saying, well, okay, people, we're going to have to cut back. In order to get through the winter, we've stocked up a bunch of gas. They've got like whatever facilities you would store gas in long term. They've got that, and they've been filling those, and they've been telling people that they need to cut back. Well, according to RT, German households and small businesses raised their natural gas consumption by 14.5% above the 5-year average in the week from September 19th through 25th, according to Germany's energy regulator, the Federal Network Agency.
So that much more than that week last year or the month before? The
last 5 years. Compared to the last 5 years, September 19th to 25th, their gas consumption was up over 14%.
Well, it doesn't sound like they're conserving very well.
No, and that's the point here, is that they have failed at their first, what they're calling the gas-saving test.
If it's going more expensive, why are they using more gas?
I don't know. That doesn't make
any
sense.
You know what? Everyone I talk to in the United States, because gas prices and electricity prices over here are also astronomical.
They're going up.
Yeah, they're going up. Everyone I talk to is like, I'm turning all the lights on my house off. Yeah. We do not have the heat on yet, and it's still like pretty cold here. And so many people are like, I'm not turning the heat on until my pipes are about to freeze because it's so expensive. So I'm surprised to hear that they're using more.
Did Conan say what he told us on the air last night, or was it off the air? I think it was
off the air, but I don't think it was a secret.
No, I don't think it's a secret either.
He's thinking of closing off all of his house except his middle room. And only heating that one this winter.
I know a lot of people that do that. He said that's a good idea.
He said he just bought a cot. So he's putting his cot.
Goodbye bedroom.
Yeah, he's not going to use his bedroom.
Oh, that's excessive.
He's in like his office, basically. Yeah. So it's the smallest room in the house. It's got the computer in there, and he's going to put a cot in there, and then he'll just leave there to make food in the kitchen and go back in there.
And it's just crazy that people have to think about that because things are so expensive. Utilities should not cost this much. I mean, this is crazy.
And we're just barely feeling it here as far as utility costs. I mean, the supply rate here in New Hampshire's doubled. I don't know what's happened in other states. If you want to call in and share your experience with us,
apparently gas, like petrol or like at the pump, is 7 times more expensive in California than any other state.
70.
7 times?
70.
No, like the price you're paying at the pump, but maybe like
I'm thinking. Sorry, my brain is thinking 70%.
No, that can't be true, Bonnie, because, I mean, the pump prices here are like 3-something right now.
They're like $7 over in California.
Yeah, so that would be like 100% more, which is still a lot. But if California had cracked $10, there'd be headlines everywhere. And it did crack 10 at some pumps, I think. when the price had shot up, when it was like around here, it was like $4.60, getting up towards $5. Yeah. I think there was some stations in California that were getting close to 10, and that was making headlines then.
Yeah. Maybe I got the number 7 because it's $7 per gallon in some places.
That seems probably true, and that's probably for the high-end stuff as well.
So, yeah, months ago, I was in California, and it was still like high $6. So I was very surprised when I saw a Facebook status of a woman that I met while I was out there complaining about how the gas was still that expensive, because I assumed it would have went down because over here in New Hampshire and the rest of the East Coast, gas was over $4. But now I was just in Connecticut a couple nights ago. It was under $3. It was $2.90 something.
Ooh, good times are back.
Right. Well, I was very surprised to hear that it was still the same. It was still almost $7 a gallon in California. It hadn't went down in California.
That is interesting. The private sector represents around 40% of gas consumption in Germany, mainly using gas for heating purposes. The increase coincided with the year's first cold snap, with temperatures in Northwest Europe dropping below the 30-year average. So it got colder there faster than it has gotten here, apparently. However, according to the regulator, quote, the savings required to avoid a gas shortage must be achieved independently of temperatures, unquote. So, meaning it doesn't matter what the temperature is out there, you have to cut back. Now, I don't know how they're going to mandate this. I don't know how they're going to enforce the mandate on this, but there was something else in the news today about the European Union trying to cap energy prices and spending 13 billion euros to subsidize the energy companies. They're trying to do all manner
because that's going to help, right?
No, it won't. I mean, it'll just make it look like they're doing something.
It's just going to make it worse.
When in reality, yes, in the long term, it will make it worse. The same reason why bailouts here in the U.S. did not make things better. It just gives the illusion that the state's doing something. The Federal Network Agency noted that a reduction in consumption of at least 20% is required to avoid a gas shortage in the coming months. So they're already telling you have to cut back 20%. Now, I'm sure that usage doesn't exactly correlate to degrees in temperature, so it's probably not really fair to compare, 20% means you have to turn the temperature down 20% in your house, but even turning the temperature down 10% is a pretty significant factor, right? If you keep your and obviously they're in Celsius, so we're talking Fahrenheit here. If you keep your house at 70 degrees Fahrenheit during the wintertime, and you have to cut that down by 10%, now you're at 63.
Yeah, that's cold.
That's cold.
Pretty significant for a lot of people. So, quote, the gas consumption of households and businesses in the last week was well above the average consumption of previous years. The week's figures are therefore very sobering. Without significant savings in the private sector, too, it will be difficult to avoid a gas shortage in the winter.
Yikes.
So, they're already saying you have to cut back by 20% on your energy costs. And they're saying that if you don't, there will be a quote-unquote gas shortage. Well, it's already true that they don't have enough.
Isn't there already a shortage? Yeah.
Right. The fact that you have to cut back means they know they don't have enough. This is in order to hope that they don't completely run out.
It's going to be a cold winter.
Right. Shortage seems to be code here for we don't have gas anymore, right? Because right now it's a shortage. If you have to be if you have to be even concerned with how much you're using, there's a shortage. Same thing.
If you stop buying from the main place you get gas from, there's a shortage. Isn't that the main place they get gas from is Russia?
So, yes, I think that is true.
So if you stop buying from them, then you have a shortage.
Yeah. According to Mueller, the country can't get through the winter on well-filled storage facilities. Can get through the winter on well-filled storage facilities. So they have an easier time enforcing on businesses because some bureaucrat can just walk in and go look at their thermostat. They probably don't have the same ability to just waltz into somebody's home and see how warm it is there.
Not yet.
Not yet. The number is 603-283-6160. You can join us.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Inflation, a sidelined labor force, and ever-increasing interest rates. It's the perfect storm for pushing the U.S. economy over the edge. Savvy investors are diversifying into gold and silver with BullionMax.com. You can buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals will ship fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live listeners can now order one of BullionMax's most popular products, the Goldback. Now in stock, but supplies are going fast. To get your Goldbacks, go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
First things first, you should offer, not ask, to renegotiate. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. For instant savings, make a list. Video and music streaming services, insurance premiums, your cable bill, your cell phone plan, that gym membership you stopped using by February, all those recurring costs that hit your credit card like clockwork every month. And about that card, tell them you want a lower rate. Many who do get one. And if you don't, because credit cards are stealing each other's customers, sign up for a new one with an introductory 0% balance transfer offer so you at least stop the clock on what you already owe. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
Coming up, you can join us, bring up anything that you want. On the way, we're going to get into music and science. Why do people like the music that they like? Bonnie wants to talk about that here tonight. And, Bonnie, you mentioned during the break that you just don't really have any concern for what the people in Europe are having to go through?
Why
Is
would
that
you
right?
say that? I didn't say it like that. I just said that they asked for it. And I said I'm too tired to care about like blah 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 20% since September 23rd. Blah blah blah. I'm just tired. That's all.
Bonnie has no mercy for
Yeah.
the people in Europe.
That's not what I said, Ian.
The thing is, it could be coming here soon, and
It's true,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's not to say that, and I think that you can still have empathy. I'm not telling you you have to, but I think that you can.
I didn't
still,
say I didn't though.
Okay, good. One can still have empathy for people who have made a grievous mistake, which is to say, to get involved in international conflicts and to be cheering on one side or the other in some sort of war between two tyrant states.
You can have empathy for them, but the natural law consequences won't have any empathy because they're just a concept.
Well, that's true. You cannot avoid the law of consequence for actions. And in this case, if you're backing up a tyrant, which is Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin are both tyrants, then that's what you're going to get. By the way, did you guys see this Google Translate meme that's been going around
No,
about,
I have not.
about Zelensky?
Oh, that it means the evil one rules the world?
Yeah.
What? Really?
Yeah. Did you see that?
If you just separate Volodymyr, or it might be Zelensky, into two different words and translate it from Ukrainian to English, according to this meme, I didn't double check it. Did you, Ian?
I checked it.
It means
Yeah.
the evil
The
one
evil
rules
one?
the world.
So
Creepy.
yeah, so what happened was somebody figured this out. It's ZELE space NSKY. So you kind of turn his name into
like
two
two
words,
words, yeah.
and then you put his first name after that, Vladimir, VOLODY space MYR. So again, exact lettering in his name, just with spaces in between. And of course, we all know that names came from somewhere, right? Like that there's
Yeah.
etymology and history behind names, and some people would say there's no such thing as a coincidence. And Google Translate was translating this to exactly the evil one owns the world. But what happened apparently was Google Translate blocked this translation after this meme started going around.
Of course they did.
And so they went in and they blocked the meme. But Cyprian figured out, he's former co-host here on Free Talk Live, used to be known as Vin Armani. He figured out that if you type it into Google Translate still, it will just show you the exact same thing. So it's not translating the phrase. But all you have to do is add a space and then another letter to the very end.
And then
will
it
show
changes it.
Yeah,
Yep,
it makes
'cause they didn't block that.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I tested earlier
Yeah.
today, and so confirmed. Yeah, that's
Yikes.
exactly what it means. So
That's really weird. And
So-
in
Google
Ukrainian.
Translate is usually pretty accurate. Like when you're composing like an entire sentence, it's not usually right. But with words,
few words, yeah, it gets
it's usually right.
Yeah. So I just thought that was kind of a creepy thing, right? Anyway, so we were talking about the situation in Europe, and I just wanted to give you another example of how this is affecting people over there, because this is likely coming here. Apparently, Biden has been using the strategic oil reserve. That's another thing that I saw today, and that's been tapped down pretty effectively. So the lower prices that you guys were talking about at the pump may be artificial.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah. So
Well, even in California, what the little part of that article I was thinking of, but I thought was 7 times more that I read, it said it's artificially basically higher than the other states because of the taxes that
Sure, of
they've
course.
imposed on that industry.
I mean, I think the gas prices are always artificial. I don't ever think there's a legitimate correlation for supply to the price that people are paying. It's all the government just charging whatever they want for it and placing regulations on the oil companies.
Well, yeah, it's hard to know what the actual price of gas should be because, as you said, there's a lot of regulation. There's also the fact that taxpayers are essentially subsidizing it, in that if you think about the military going over into the Middle East and securing oil fields and things like that, what does that cost? Those are not numbers that are factored into the price because the taxpayers are footing the bill for that activity, keeping shipping lanes clear and that sort of thing. All very, very costly. So we really don't know what the price is, but we do know that one of the big headlines today was that OPEC's cutting production in the Middle East. So you got a situation.
What is that?
OPEC is, I'm sorry, I forget what it stands for, but it's essentially a cartel, as I understand it, of Middle Eastern
Gas?
gas providers, oil providers. So they're cutting production. So they're not doing any favors for the United States and the European Union. So if OPEC's cutting production and the European Union and the Western democracies are putting a cap on what they're willing to pay for Russian gas, you are likely going to see the price of that particular product go up over time. And as a result, according to Euronews.com, a man named Emmanuel Leemans runs a successful bakery in Belgium. But it says running a business has become very complicated due to the rise in prices. His energy costs recently tripled. And he said he was shocked at the change in price. He said one bill for 36,000 euros was an adjustment for the year 2021, and then they calculated the energy costs to be 14,800 euros per month. Remember,
does he fly a Ukrainian flag in his window and run Ukrainian bread specials on the menu?
Good question. It wouldn't surprise me, but there's no image here of the shop's window, at least that I can see. But he says for the time being, he hasn't paid the bill, hoping that there was a mistake by energy supplier Engie.
I don't think there was, bud. Sorry.
Yeah, he says at some point someone needs to do something to cap prices or reduce them. It's not possible, he added.
It's not possible to face the consequences of me and everybody around me's collective mistakes.
Well, and that's the thing too. People are always like, well, the government has to do something about this. Like, there needs to be a cap or something. The government did this to you. What are you talking about? The government needs to save me. No, that's how you...
problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that is what a lot of these people in Europe have been saying in these stories, which, share like one a week of some business that's just about on the point of ruin because of all these costs. And they almost every single one of them turns to the government and says, "Help me." And you can't blame them for that mentality. It is all they know, and they know the government did this to them at some level. So, I mean, from a fairness perspective, it would make sense that the government would, that they would want the government to do something to solve the problem.
If someone kicked me and made me fall down, I wouldn't have them bandage my knee for me. You know what I mean?
You don't trust
I would
that person.
have somebody else do it.
That's a great point. And also, what could they do at this point? What could the government do? Just create gas out of thin air?
No.
The government that you haven't been buying gas from?
The best thing they could do would be to stop the sanctions against Russia and apologize for what they did and, essentially beg for the oil and the gas to get turned back on. I mean... eat some crow at this point because that's about all you've got left. So these businesses, they're going to go under, and that is not good for their economic future. More coming up. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. Forkfest.party.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Biden administration has reacted angrily to a plan by OPEC Plus to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. The move, just a month before America's crucial midterm elections, comes despite the White House urging for more oil to be pumped in light of Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
This decision will have the most negative impact on lower and middle-income countries. that are already reeling from elevated energy prices, reads a statement from White House officials reacting to the OPEC oil cut. It also says President Biden is disappointed at the decision and that he's calling on US energy companies to keep bringing pump prices down. But that pressure hasn't worked well before, meaning another increase in gas prices is likely in the US ahead of the midterms.
On the day Vladimir Putin formally annexed 4 parts of Ukraine and the Kremlin called them forever Russian, the European Union agreed to a fresh round of sanctions against Moscow. Brussels is moving to hit Russia's fossil fuel profits while targeting more individuals close to the Kremlin. From FSN's bureau in Brussels, Alex Kadia with more.
This is the 8th round of sanctions agreed by the European Union against Russia, this time following Moscow's illegal annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Russian individuals involved in the referenda in those regions will be targeted directly by these sanctions, and the price at which Russian oil can be purchased in the EU will also be capped, with the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggesting that a price cap on Russian gas may be next.
Russian warplanes entered Nato airspace on Wednesday, leading European countries to scramble jets in response. From Warsaw, where he's on special assignment, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The Italian Air Force confirmed in a statement Wednesday afternoon that it had scrambled Eurofighter jets to intercept 4 Russian warplanes which had entered Polish airspace. Italy currently has jets in Poland as part of a joint NATO air policing mission designed to keep Allied skies clear of Russian aircraft. The Italian Air Force said that the Russian fighter jets took off from Kaliningrad before infringing on Poland's airspace. They then turned across the Baltic Sea and entered Sweden's territory before the Italians were able to catch up with them and force them to return to base.
In the British city of Birmingham today,
on entering Downing Street to act.
UK Prime Minister Liz Truss shouted down as she made the most important speech of her political life. Greenpeace activists disrupted the Prime Minister's remarks to the Conservative Party conference before they were escorted from the hall. The Prime Minister vowed to stop what she called an anti-growth coalition from holding back the country, and she told delegates her tax-cutting agenda will lead the UK through tempest and turmoil. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We've been talking a little bit about energy costs, and a lot of people in the We've been just focusing on the European Union, but there's a good chance some of these concerns are going to be coming here. But in the United States, people are concerned about inflation, rightfully so. We can get into that. Also, we can talk about musical tastes. That's coming up that Bonnie wanted to share with us. But inflation is a real problem, and the solution isn't to beg the government to change anything, because, they don't care what you think. The solution is to protect yourself, to take the steps that are necessary to ensure that the value that you've created in your life for your family and your loved ones is protected for the future. Now, of course, there are no guarantees, but over many generations, it has been proven that precious metals like gold and silver have done a darn good job of keeping up people's value with the rate of inflation out there. So it may be a good idea to get into gold and silver. If you haven't already started, go to bullionmax.com. They've got a ton of products there. So if you're looking to stack gold or silver, just store it away. Of course, they got the ounces and I think they even have larger pieces than that there, but you can buy those at very affordable rates at bullionmax.com. But go to /FTL and you'll get their gold back page. Now, this is for people that are ready to use gold in commerce, to actually buy and sell things with gold, with real gold, because gold backs are interchangeable gold money that you can carry in your wallet made of real gold. They're incredibly popular in the freedom community. There's mom and pop businesses that are accepting these things, and you don't know who's going to take these things unless you ask, and that's why you got to have them in your wallet, be able to pull them out and show them off, and it gives you the excuse to talk about real money and real value. It's a really great outreach tool and an outreach piece. And
It'll make you popular.
It really will get a lot of attention. There's no doubt about it. People love the gold backs. But again, gold backs aren't for stacking as much as they are for spending. So go and learn more at bullionmax.com/FTL. You can get your gold backs there. And again, other huge variety of gold and silver pieces over at bullionmax.com/FTL, like Free Talk Live. As we continue here, so we're talking about money-related things. The CenterSquare.newspress.com reporting that nearly 3 out of 4 Americans are now more concerned about rising prices. So a lot of Americans were already concerned. Now, 74% of Americans are now even more concerned than before about inflation. BMO Financial Group released survey data on the economy and inflation showing 74% are increasingly worried about rising costs due to inflation. Quote, more than 70% feel their financial momentum is threatened by higher grocery bills. So that's 78% said that. The rising cost of gas, 76% said that. In order to prepare for a potential recession, 76% of Americans say they're making lifestyle changes, such as delaying large purchases on a home or a car, paying down debt, and cutting back on holiday spending. So one of the big questions is, what's the holiday season going to look like for a lot of these retailers who've counted for years on what's called Black Friday, where supposedly retailers get into the black, as it's called. They become profitable for the first time in the year. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's
I didn't know what that meant.
That's where the name supposedly came from.
I have a hard time believing that's the first time they're profitable.
It is hard to believe, isn't it?
And especially when they're giving everything so cheap.
It is hard to believe, but that's the saying. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But Americans have been historically very irresponsible with their money, and the holiday season is usually a show of that. So are they going to cut back? Time will tell. We'll find out more probably
They're just going to go into debt to do their normal Black Friday things.
That's what people usually do.
Right.
I know so many parents who are like, well, I have to get my kid this like $700 thing and all this stuff, so I just put it on my credit card.
Well, yes, you're correct, Bonnie. That is exactly what Americans do. That is the historical, habit of people because they can't afford. They already couldn't afford before the quote-unquote recession. They couldn't afford it. So are they going to get more financially sound on this year? I guess time will tell. We'll find out in 2 months.
Your kids won't be any happier because they got the really expensive thing, and they won't learn, to be grateful for what they have.
No, but they'll be happy if they've got food in their bellies. So,
yep. My parents never bought us really expensive things for Christmas. First of all, there was a lot of us. We always understood, and we were always really loved Christmas. I mean, really liked our presents, and we were always grateful for things. And then I noticed my other friends would have the nice iPhone, the nicer DS than us, and they were less grateful of them.
That figures.
For me, it was
brats.
I had a flip phone, and I was like, oh my God, thank you, parents. This is amazing, and they had really nice phones. The other people had really nice phones and just didn't appreciate it as much.
Yeah. So I don't want to get off topic, but I saw this video the other day, and it was a mother recording her daughter, a fight with her teenage daughter. And she's yelling at her daughter going, I already spent $3,000 on you for back to school stuff.
Oh my God.
I am not taking you back to the mall today. And the girl is having a mental breakdown it's not enough. And I'm just I could never imagine my mom while I was a teenager buying me $3,000 worth of stuff just for back to school clothes.
No.
What do you, I mean, that's crazy. And I'm even thinking now, I'm I have clothes from middle school that I still wear. What a spoiled brat needs $3,000 worth of clothes just to go back to school.
For one season.
And
is that's crazy.
And is she
it's
getting
not
into
enough.
debt for that too?
Probably. And you got to think, I mean, I kind of didn't feel bad for the mom because I'm this is your fault.
Right.
You shouldn't have done that.
This.
You shouldn't have even spent that much money on her in the first place.
Yep.
So now, kids start expecting that stuff. So this is going to be a tough Christmas if parents can't expect to spend thousands of dollars on their spoiled brat kids.
If you want to share your thoughts tonight, your experience, feel free to weigh in at 603-283-6160. So again, 3 out of 4 Americans here very concerned with inflation. The poll conducted with the Ipsos also found that, quote, significantly fewer U.S. consumers feel confident about their financial situation compared to the last quarter. And that concern varies by age group. Older Americans are feeling more concerned than younger generations. Between ages 55 and 64, 82% said their concerns about inflation have increased over the last 3 months, compared to 62% of those between the ages of 18 and 24. Now, is that because older folks have been through more? They know kind of
probably
what to expect. They know that things are likely not going to turn around tomorrow. And younger people are just like, we'll get through it,
And I think like older people, they remember when prices were much lower, right?
They
and
have
younger
that basis
people,
of comparison.
like, they don't really have. They're like, well, has this always been expensive? Because even like myself, I've been thinking like, has this always been expensive? Like at the grocery store, I'm like, did that always cost that much? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. Like I can't remember what it used to cost.
Well, right.
So,
I mean, how many years have you been shopping for yourself?
Yeah.
Right?
And it's just like, do you
Less than
think
10.
about, do you think and retain that as a long-term memory, like how much you paid for tortilla chips? You don't really retain that as long-term memory. It's like you're adding up how much you want to spend right there, and then it goes away.
I mean, when it goes up abruptly, like $1 a bag, I mean, that's easier to find. But I even know someone who eats cough drops a lot, and they were like, I remember when I could get a coupon at Market Basket to get these 2 for $1. And now the bag of cough drops she likes is like almost $4 a bag.
Whoa.
And she's like, this is only like, like less than 10 years.
Yeah. That's amazing. So Americans are also concerned about the impact of a recession. Nearly 8 in 10 Americans say they plan to adjust their lifestyles in response to recession concerns, delaying major purchases, as we mentioned. 28% cutting down on holiday spending, 24% putting more money in savings, which, of course, that is not going to help you if you're keeping your money in the dollar, right? Long term, the dollar is the problem here. That is the reason why all of this is happening. And of course, mainstream media doesn't do anyone any favors when they don't talk about what inflation really is. And inflation is an increase in the money supply.
No, because they hate you and they want you to be poor and to be suffering.
That's true, because poor people are in debt, and people who are in debt are owned.
Dependent.
Yeah, they're owned. So if you want to comment here, you can join us, whether you want to comment on the prices that you've seen going up. There's a new thing, by the way. You've heard of shrinkflation? Well, there's something else going on out there now that is called skimpflation. I'll tell you about it coming up. It's Free Talk Live. Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
So we're talking about some of the economic circumstances that people are finding themselves dealing with, which one of those things is inflation, and everybody's dealing with it. And of course, you know, the less wealthy you are, the more it affects you, because when prices go up on simple things like food, that hurts people that are barely getting the bills paid. And of course, the bills are going up too, as we've seen with electricity bills, gas bills, things like that. You can join us here and share your experience at 603-283-6160. I was just saying yesterday that Bonnie and I went out for lunch the other day after we went to support a friend at a court hearing, and it was over $30 just for a couple of sub sandwiches and 2 drinks.
Yeah, it's
crazy.
Shocking.
For us. So it's like, wow, it's hurting people. There's no doubt about it. But there's certain things that companies are doing to try to cover this up. And one of the things we've discussed here in detail over the years, not just recently, but we've been aware of this for a long time, which is what has been termed shrinkflation. And if you're paying attention at the grocery store over the years, and again, this is also something where having years under your belt as a shopper helps, but even those paying attention under a shorter period of time, especially now, are probably noticing this happening. And I've talked about this for years. I remember when every yogurt on the shelf was an 8-ounce yogurt. If you were to just go buy it, it was an 8-ounce yogurt. And then it went down to like 6 something, and then it went down to 5.3 ounces. And it sort of stayed steady at 5.3 for a while because you can only cut it back so much. And now there's one brand on the store shelves at Market Basket, Noosa, which I'd never seen before we started shopping there, that actually has 8-ounce sizes available, and it just looks so big by comparison. It's like, oh my god, I can't believe this.
Yeah, they look like the big ones, right. And it's not really, I mean, it's just the other one shrunk.
That was the old standard, and the 8-ounce standard has been gone for it must be more than a decade.
I think that's the serving size of yogurt.
8 ounce?
So, I think so.
It's too big for me, but I just can't eat that much yogurt.
You're a little lady, but so in addition to yogurt, you see it happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Another great example, of course, is the old 64-ounce orange juice. the orange juice containers, those have been slimmed down to like 52, 53, 54 ounces. So they are nowhere near the size.
Oh,
that
like
they
the
used
carton
to be.
ones?
The carton itself, yeah. And they'll sometimes they'll do like sneaky things, like they'll like shave off the carton, but it'll be on the back side of the carton, so like the carton is thinner, but it's not like you can't see it on the rack as thinner.
Oh,
it just
that is
doesn't
sneaky.
have as much in it.
And
or
I'm
a weird
sure,
shape.
Yeah, and I'm sure most people don't look at the actual ounces. They don't look at the size of what they're buying.
That's what you have to pay attention to. Yeah. So that's been happening for a long time. And CBS News is reporting on a new thing, which also probably has happened as well, but just quietly, and it's harder to detect. This is now called skimpflation. So shrinkflation is where they change the size of packaging, and they're real quiet about it. And now they're doing skimpflation. So what does that mean? Well, some companies are reformulating their products using cheaper ingredients.
Wow.
To reduce their manufacturing costs.
New and improved formula, huh?
More soy.
Yeah,
That's
extra
probably
soy
true.
and corn syrup.
Whatever's
Yum.
cheap is what they're going to be putting into their products. And now, Bonnie, this might be something you pick up on because you are actually somebody that does look at product labeling. You do look at ingredients. But, they don't always tell you what percentages are in. Like when you look at the ingredients of a product, it'll tell you what's in there, and you generally know that the first ingredient is the most and the last ingredient is the least, but you still don't know what percentage of water there is versus whatever else.
Yep.
So according to Consumer World's Edgar Dworsky, the change typically isn't communicated at all, of course, to consumers, because who's going to want to advertise that there's less of the most important product in the product, who may be unaware of the change and yet are being charged the same price for the product. One recent example of this is consumers did notice, that's how it's come out, that ConAgra, which is a huge manufacturer of corporate processed food products. In fact, the fries that you just brought home from the convenience store tonight are a ConAgra product. They're Smart Balance Spread. It's a dairy-free butter substitute.
Oh, it's like margarine.
So one of those fake things, yeah. ConAgra recently changed its formulation to reduce the share of vegetable oil in this product from 64% to 39%.
Good.
Almost 40% reduction.
They're using soy anyway, probably, or seed oils.
Oh, maybe that's it. But vegetable oil is terrible for you anyways.
Well, when you go to buy vegetable oil from the shelf, like to cook with, every single one that I looked at Market Basket the other day is 100% soy oil.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of like carrots and celery and potatoes on the front.
It's a huge farce, right? Because vegetable oil must be so much healthier than butter or any lard or animal fats, right?
Nope.
Not so.
No, it's completely toxic for your body.
It's polyunsaturated fatty acids.
Y'all are correct about that from what I understand, but it's not like they took out the vegetable oil from this vegetable oil product and put butter in its place.
Yeah,
they just took it out and put, I don't know what, in its place.
Something worse.
Maybe more water? I don't know. And what's interesting is what they say here is that, so they reduced the vegetable oil by about 40%. Customers who noticed have flocked to Smart Balance website to complain about the formulation, calling it terrible, disgusting, and undesirable. Quote, "We've been loyal Smart Balance customers for a long time, but something changed," said one customer as part of their one-star review. They said further, "It is now really soft, spits all over when frying an egg, and doesn't melt on toast. Just as bad, it's now over $10 for the big tub. This tub is headed for the trash." So if this does actually encourage people to get rid of vegetable oil and switch to butter, that's great.
Well, they've been brainwashed to think that animal fats are bad for your arteries when really these polyunsaturated fatty acids are what block your arteries, and animal fats don't do that.
Well, because that's what dietitians were telling people in the 80s and the 90s.
Sure.
And then we found out, no. Well, actually, I think they still are telling people that vegetable oil is better for you than animal fats.
Depends who you ask, right?
It depends who you ask. Yeah, exactly.
Now, of course, whenever they confront the companies about these things, a lot of times they don't even answer the questions. But in this case, ConAgra did speak. The spokesman said that that they had changed the formulation to, quote, "make them easier to spread." But we've heard the
Nice
feedback.
save.
Yeah, we've heard the feedback from consumers and have decided to return to the previous recipes in the coming months.
Sure.
So a total load, total cover-up, nonsense. Skimflation may save costs or even boost a company's bottom line, at least in the short term, but it also risks turning off consumers who may seek alternatives that they view as providing better value or qualities, said the expert. Some angry customers vowed in their reviews they would switch brands because of the perception of poor quality after the recipe change. He said it's hurtful in the economic sense. You're getting a little less quality for your money, and it hasn't necessarily been clearly disclosed. Another example given of this skimflation is the Scott 1000 sheet toilet paper,
Oh, yeah.
which has drawn negative reviews on its website for what consumers say is a decline in quality. Quote, the quality has gone, well, down the toilet. This is not the pre-pandemic Scott, one consumer wrote on Scott's website in September. The sheets are so thin they're transparent. I don't even think they are a full ply, 1/4 ply at best.
And Ian, that's the one that I'm always saying that I liked pre-pandemic, but we can't find anywhere anymore.
Oh, really?
The orange Scott, they were like, I don't know, one of my favorite toilet papers.
It's kind of funny that you say that because that's what my parents would buy growing up, but I haven't seen it in years.
Yeah, we don't see it at Target or Walmart
I just realized that.
The gentleman from the website here, again, his name is Edgar Dworsky from Consumer World. He said he happened to have an older package of the exact same quote-unquote product at his home, and he then went and bought a new package. He weighed the two packages and adjusted for the change in length for the rolls, because that's also, again, that's the shrinkflation aspect. Is they take the rolls down in the number of or the number of... what do you call them?
Sheets,
thank you, yeah. But he found the new rolls weigh 20% less than the older ones. So they're still 1,000
I can't believe
sheets.
this guy went out of his way to do this, but good for him.
I love it. I love these
That's great,
people like this.
Accountability.
Yeah. So it's still 1,000 sheets.
Yeah.
But the sheets ain't what they used to be. He says
Get a bidet, y'all.
Yeah, that's absolutely good advice. It wasn't just the consumer perception the product had gotten thinner. It really did, he said. How would a consumer know just looking at the package? You wouldn't. And of course, these are things that they would never advertise because it is a lowering of a product quality just so they can keep the same shelf price so consumers don't feel like prices are going up. But they are, and it cannot be avoided. Not as long as the government's printing money endlessly. There's more coming up here, and you can join us. We'll get into musical preference. Plus, Shakira is facing tax charges.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Biden administration has reacted angrily to a plan by OPEC Plus to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. The move, just a month before America's crucial midterm elections, comes despite the White House urging for more oil to be pumped in light of Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
This decision will have the most negative impact on lower and middle-income countries that are already reeling from elevated energy prices, reads a statement from White House officials reacting to the OPEC oil cut. It also says President Biden is disappointed at the decision and that he's calling on US energy companies to keep bringing pump prices down. But that pressure hasn't worked well before, meaning another increase in gas prices is likely in the US ahead of the midterms.
On the day Vladimir Putin formally annexed 4 parts of Ukraine and the Kremlin called them forever Russian, the European Union agreed to a fresh round of sanctions against Moscow. Brussels is moving to hit Russia's fossil fuel profits while targeting more individuals close to the Kremlin. From FSN's bureau in Brussels, Alex Kadia with more.
This is the 8th round of sanctions agreed by the European Union against Russia, this time following Moscow's illegal annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Russian individuals involved in the referenda in those regions will be targeted directly by these sanctions, and the price at which Russian oil can be purchased in the EU will also be capped, with the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggesting that a price cap on Russian gas may be next.
Russian warplanes entered Nato airspace on Wednesday, leading European countries to scramble jets in response. From Warsaw, where he's on special assignment, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The Italian Air Force confirmed in a statement Wednesday afternoon that it had scrambled Eurofighter jets to intercept 4 Russian warplanes which had entered Polish airspace. Italy currently has jets in Poland as part of a joint NATO air policing mission designed to keep Allied skies clear of Russian aircraft. The Italian Air Force said that the Russian fighter jets took off from Kaliningrad before infringing on Poland's airspace. They then turned across the Baltic Sea and entered Sweden's territory before the Italians were able to catch up with them and force them to return to base.
In the British city of Birmingham today,
on entering Downing Street to act.
UK Prime Minister Liz Truss shouted down as she made the most important speech of her political life. Greenpeace activists disrupted the Prime Minister's remarks to the Conservative Party conference before they were escorted from the hall. The Prime Minister vowed to stop what she called an anti-growth coalition from holding back the country, and she told delegates her tax-cutting agenda will lead the UK through tempest and turmoil. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, one of the 4 women chosen to spend 5 months in the Antarctic running a post office. No, there really is one there, on an island without a single permanent resident. It is described as the most remote and coldest post office on Earth. But Britain's Antarctic Heritage Trust has selected an all-female team out of 6,000 applicants to head to Goodia Island in the west of the Antarctic Peninsula. They'll live in a facility without electricity or a functional toilet. 40-year-old Lucy Bruzone, a geographer who works at the University of Cambridge, will be the team's leader.
My family and friends are relatively used to me heading off on random adventures, so I think they all think I'm a little bit mad, but really looking forward to learning more about the UK Antarctic Heritage Trust bases that are down in Antarctica and all the history that goes on there. There's not a long history of women in Antarctica, so it's a really unique opportunity for us to show a different story, and particularly the base that we're going to be working on was set up by a fully male team and was run many years by a male-dominated group. So the opportunity to change the story and tell a different story is a great one too.
She calls Antarctica the ultimate destination for any geographer and says she's eager to share the experience with visitors and those keeping track of the team's progress from afar. The main news again, the Biden administration has reacted angrily to a plan by OPEC Plus to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. The president called the proposal short-sighted. On the day Vladimir Putin formally annexed 4 parts of Ukraine, the European Union agreed to a fresh round of sanctions against Moscow. And UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has vowed to stop what she called an anti-growth coalition from holding back the country. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
This is William Chambers. Now a retired insurance salesman, Chambers is just one of over 95% of grandfathers who, according to a new report from the Center of Business Intelligence, secured their first and only job by walking right up to the owner of a business and asking for a position right then and there.
I slammed my fist on the desk and said, "I'm your man." He stood right up. He shook my hand and he said, "You come in first thing Monday morning."
According to the report, nearly 36% of grandfathers claim that they found employment by entering a local business with nothing but a nickel in their pockets and a shirt on their backs. 24% saw a fine-looking marquee for a business and said, "Someday my name's going to be on that sign." And 40% of grandfathers said they snuck into the CEO's office and said, "Mr. McKinley, sir, I'm your guy."
It just took gumption. You didn't need some fancy internship. Looking the boss dead in the eye and showing him you were a man. That was your internship.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. Talking about the effects of inflation, which is the increase in the money supply. When the Federal Reserve, in the case of the United States, cranks out more dollars into circulation, that means that those dollars are now chasing the same amount of goods, or if there's less goods or fewer goods, then it's chasing
And there are fewer.
Yeah, because of supply issues or whatever. The prices go up as a result of that. But companies try to do some real shady stuff to try to keep the price the same because they feel like they don't want to lose customers. They know that if they raise their price, customers are going to start wandering. Right?
I thought that the companies were just raising the prices, and that's all that inflation was, just companies raising prices.
Yeah, it's corporate greed. Didn't you guys know that?
That's what Biden tried to say earlier this year before he then later blamed Putin, the Putin price hike. And
that didn't even catch on, I feel.
I'll tell you anything besides the truth.
Yes, of course. So, well, the truth is, not only are these companies sneakily cutting their product sizes, redesigning bottles, redesigning packaging, trying to avoid people detecting these changes, that's still relatively easy to spot. If you pay attention to the number of ounces in the things that you buy, you can usually notice these things. But very few people, by comparison, are paying attention to the order of the ingredients on the back of the package.
Yeah.
Now, in the case, they gave us a couple of examples, and actually it turns out this Consumer World, which is the website that they were interviewing the guy from, consumerworld.org. It's actually something I am familiar with. It didn't ring a bell for me. Mouseprint is one of their websites. So they've got multiple sites, and Mouseprint is one of my favorite websites I've come across in probably the last decade. It's not a real fancy website. It looks like it probably hasn't been updated, like the style of it hasn't changed probably in 20 years, but the information is always really interesting. And this Edgar guy is apparently one of the writers for it. Mouseprint is a site that has been looking at shrinkflation for many, many years.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can go back and see when products were cut 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. Their viewers will send in examples of things.
And they have
that are
all the
happening.
information on the website still, so you can compare stuff.
You can go back, sure. I mean, it's probably not easy to do, but there's a large number of pages of history, 288 pages.
Wait, so there's not like a search engine?
Actually, there is. There is one. So anyway, they've always got interesting information there, and now they're talking about the new skimpflation, which is where companies are actually cutting product quality. So the amount of product is still the same. And one example that was given earlier was this smart balance, as they call it, this vegetable oil, quote-unquote, buttery spread, even though it doesn't have butter in it.
It's like, I can't believe it's not butter, but a different brand.
Yeah, that stuff. And I think it was ConAgra, that was making this. Interestingly, they do reveal on this particular product how much of it is vegetable oil. So people that were paying attention to that percentage were able to detect it easier. So it did say it was 64%, then it went down to 39%, and I was right. They did put more water in instead of the actual vegetable oil, which is why customers were complaining, because it's spattering when they're putting it into, a hot dish.
That's what I thought of when you said it was spitting.
Right.
It made me think water does that.
So that's what they did. They said they got enough complaints to where they're going to change it back, but who knows when they're going to do that. They got to sell through their stock first, right?
And it's crazy to even think about them cutting the oil percentage in half, essentially, right? Because it was
by
40%. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's a huge cut. Now, here's a little more of a subtle cut, and this one is a really sneaky one because it's harder to detect. This, I think, is, I'm going to guess, this looks like frozen food. Hungry Man is the brand here. And to be fair, it is right there on the front. So as far as you don't have to even turn the package over to look at the details to catch this one, but you still got to be pretty eagle-eyed on this one because you have to remember what the old number was or still have the old packaging. So what they did here was they kept the number of ounces in this product the same. It's still a 15-ounce product. It's the double chicken bowls, boneless fried chicken, 2 fried white meat chicken patties. That's all still quote-unquote true. But it went from 39 grams of protein per serving to 33 grams of protein per serving.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a 15% cut in protein.
What are they putting in
this
it?
product?
Oh my gosh.
And that's the thing. We don't know, right?
So it's the TV dinner, but it's the complete. I thought you were talking about just the chicken breast for a second, or whatever the meat is.
The chicken breast has filler in it. You know that, right?
Yeah.
It's not. This is microwave food. It's not going to be like a proper chicken breast. It's going to be like the ass end of the chicken and then some bread or
ground
something, right?
up and fried.
Filler.
Oh, that's gross.
So the question is, what did they reduce? Did they reduce the chicken content or the cheese content, which are the two most dominant proteins, according to mouseprint.org? And again, it's just one guy just happened to notice that this thing was cut back. So it's just really disturbing stuff. And again, so
it really points out to people that the food they're eating is not even real food. That's not real food.
Well, and that's the thing. So that's why people don't notice this stuff. Because do you think people that are eating margarine, soda, and TV dinners are looking at ingredients? They're just grabbing it. Exactly. So they have absolutely no clue what they are putting in their bodies.
Yep. They're shopping by price.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why these companies do this, because they don't want to raise the price on the shelf, because they know that the consumer habits are changing.
And
people are looking at other brands because people have a brand loyalty, right? If you find a brand that you like, you stick with that brand because it's easy that way. I like this brand of
you
chips.
already know you like it, whatever.
I don't have to look at anything else. I'll just keep, if the chips double in price, well, now you might start thinking, okay, well, what about the store brand? Or what about this other option? And that's when people start to look around. So that's why these companies do this, is they don't want to have to increase their price. They will eventually, but they try to delay it. And so as a result, they're actually making their products worse.
And one thing I learned recently is now things, every time they do jump prices, and I learned this from a store owner today, every time a thing does jump prices, it jumps more than it used to at a time, because they don't want to be switching it so constantly. Because
it's expensive to change prices.
And also they don't want people to notice, wait, this went up 50 cents last week and now it went up 50 cents again. Instead, they'll wait those 2 weeks out until they absolutely can't anymore, then it'll jump $1.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It does make sense.
Well, think about the time that you have to spend updating prices, right? So if you have a store, the more inventory you have, the more different items, and you're talking about a convenience store, so there's a wide variety of items available there. A grocery store, of course, is huge. Every single one, somebody's got to go into a computer, and they have to update the prices of everything.
And that's an easy way, is through the computer if they have those electronic price. But if they have the stickers, they have to go sit there, print them out, stick them on.
Some employees, you got to pay somebody to go through the whole store and reprice everything in the store. So very few stores have electronic price tags. I've seen Kohl's. I think they have them, but but I don't remember seeing that at very many places at all.
No, but you still have to go on the computer and fix it too in the back end, so that way it's ringing up correctly.
Yeah.
So, again, you want to share your experiences, join us. Sarah is on the line in New Mexico. Sarah, have you noticed, I know you're calling about a different reason, but have you been noticing any of these price increases, or do you just not pay attention because you're on welfare and so it doesn't really matter what it costs?
Well, things have gotten smaller. I've noticed that the chicken box is the same, but it seems like I'm getting like half the chicken box that I used to get.
From where?
So just from Banquet, that's what they've been doing. It's the weights are getting smaller and smaller.
Banquet, that's a frozen food brand,
it's another
right?
frozen food, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like I'm getting used to be almost a full box of chicken, but less box of chicken. But I want to comment about we're going to get security cameras for our speed cameras.
Do you think people want to pay for that?
Cameras on top of cameras?
Do you think that's what people want to spend their money on in Albuquerque instead of having that extra money for food since prices are going up and the chicken box price doubled?
Well, I mean, that's where it's going because
it's stolen from them.
But who's watching the watchers, Sarah? That's what I want to know. Thanks for the call tonight. So cameras on top of cameras. They've already got speeding cameras. Now they need security cameras
because
to watch
people tore them down last
Yeah.
time, she explained.
Yep. The number here
That's
is
hilarious.
603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Why do people like the music they like? We'll find out coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up absolutely anything that you want to discuss. That is what we do here on Free Talk Live. Here tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
As we continue here, we were talking about shrinkflation and now the new skimpflation, which is companies actually cutting back the product quality and replacing ingredients with lesser quality ingredients. Very, very sneaky way of trying to keep prices from rising as fast as they otherwise would. If you want to give us some examples that you've noticed, you can join us here, or you can bring up absolutely anything that you want to discuss. By the way, Free Talk Live is brought to you by listeners like you. Folks like Carlos, who is a Free Talk Live supporter of our AMPS program. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. Carlos is a platinum level supporter, which means he's doing $25 a month. So thank you, Carlos, for getting behind what we do here on Free Talk Live. Really appreciate it. You get some cool perks. You get access, for instance, to the custom Patreon RSS feed that has our full radio show in podcast form with no recorded commercials. So if that's something that you want to get, because remember, we do have our regular podcast that has Daily Digest, which is still an hour of content roughly every single day. But if you need the maximum amount of Free Talk Live, you can get that through our AMPS program at amps.freetalklive.com. And there are other ways to get that as well, like our channel over on Odyssey has full video archives anytime you want them for free over at video.freetalklive.com. But if you like what we do and you can afford $5 a month, again, Carlos is doing $25. That's not what we ask. We certainly appreciate it, Carlos. Thank you. But if you got $5 a month, you can send our way. We appreciate that. You can do PayPal. You can do debit card or credit card through Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com. So, Bonnie, let's change gears here a little bit into something about science, looking at musical preference. You know, why do people like the music that they like? I mean, for instance, you ladies are in a similar age category. You weren't raised in the same area of the country necessarily, but you guys have some pretty disparate interests in musical tastes. What's the reason for that?
I don't know, but this says the science is going to weigh in. This is from the union leader. It says, have you ever wondered why you love a particular song or genre of music? The answer may lie in your personality, although other factors also play a role, researchers say. Many people tend to form their musical identity in adolescence, around the same time that they explore their social identity. Preferences may change over time, but research shows that people tend to be especially fond of music from their adolescent years and recall music from a specific age period.
Well, I would think that parental influence has to play a significant
absolutely.
role
I mean,
here.
My dad's, the reason why I love classic rock so much is because of my father, because he had a ton of records and CDs that I got to poke through when I was a kid. So I was just exposed to it.
My dad listened to, I would say, mostly like rock music. He was a big Rush fan, for instance,
cool.
when I was growing up. But that wasn't his only thing that he listened to. And I've never, I didn't follow his exact tastes or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, it must have had some influence on me, but...
My dad definitely, and my mom definitely influenced me a lot. Like, my mom loves the Beatles. I love the Beatles. That's the song that's, a Beatles song that stuck in my head when I was trying to nap earlier. And I like some of the music my dad likes, but definitely not all of it. Like, my dad likes, 80s rock, and I don't like that at all. But I do like Tom Petty and, some 70s stuff that he liked.
Okay.
And it's interesting that you said something about adolescent years, because my mom always said that she noticed that people tend to really like the music when they were in high school. So like the year you graduated high school is typically the year that she noticed, at least, that people kind of like their music's taste stuck there, kind of.
I totally agree. And also it says here, they recall music from a specific age period, 10 to 30 years old, with a peak at 14. And one time I heard that the song that was the top song at your 14th birthday is like an important song to your life. And it's just hilarious because mine is OMG by Usher. And that song is, that's a great song. I like it, don't get me wrong. But it has nothing to do with me.
Maybe I would know it if I heard it, but like the title doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, I would tell you some lyrics, but they're just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like a song I like, but wouldn't ever look up and listen to. But there are way better Usher songs. I don't know. I like it. I think it's hilarious, and I'm glad that one was mine. But I don't agree with that assessment that it has something to do with your whole life or whatever.
You're saying this is the song that would be the top charting song that week that you were born? Okay.
On your 14th birthday.
Gotcha.
Even though that exact day of my birthday doesn't add up, when I was 14, I still listen to a lot of the music that I listened to from when I was 14. Like Katy Perry's Teenage Dream was big, like California Girls was big that summer. I still listen to Teenage Dream. And I still listen to Lady Gaga music that came out when I was like 12, 13, 14.
I still listen to, I'm in my 40s now, but I still listen to, or I can listen, I should say, to the music that I listened to as a teenager, but I don't make a point of it. My musical palette has expanded quite a bit from when I was a teenager, when it was fairly standard, like I was just into metal at that time. And then since that time, I mean, I've gotten into K-pop and trance, electronic music, and things like that. So
exactly. Mine has expanded a lot since I was 14 as well, but those are still like core things I really like.
Okay.
And I just think that's kind of weird that this thing specifically mentions 14, that meme or whatever that I saw.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
And it just adds up with me. Like, those are some of my top things ever, or top albums ever, are like The Fame by Lady Gaga and Teenage Dream by Katy Perry. Those are like some of my top albums ever, and they came out when I was 14-ish. Okay, it says musical taste is often identified by preferred genres, but a more accurate way of understanding preferences is by musical attributes, researchers say. One model outlines 3 dimensions of musical attributes: arousal, valence, and depth.
I don't know what valence is.
I don't either.
Are they going to tell us a little more about these things? Okay.
Arousal is linked to the amount of energy and intensity in the music. And I've noticed that recently mine has had to go down. Like,
really?
I've always listened to super high upbeat music, and recently I just couldn't listen to a lot of it. Like, I didn't listen to Lady Gaga for several months. Probably has something to do with the fact that I was boycotting her because I was mad at her.
Because she's a tool of the state, you mean?
No, because she was supporting the military. She didn't used to do that, at least.
That's part of being a tool of the state.
Yeah, but I didn't care when she was like being masky. It's like whatever.
Oh, you didn't? I thought you.
It was annoying, but it didn't make me like.
That wasn't a deal breaker?
Yeah, it wasn't a deal breaker.
I see.
Didn't make me sell my tickets to go see her.
So I looked up the top songs for the year that I was 14, like the top hits, and I hate them all.
Well, what's the one of the week you were your birthday?
It was "We Are Young" by the band Fun, and I don't like that song either. I mean, it's probably the least horrible one off this list, but yeah, somebody that I used to know. "Call Me Maybe." I mean, it's like "Lights" by Ellie Goulding.
Wow.
Okay, that's a good one.
You were born the year "Call Me Maybe" was?
No, I was 14.
Oh, okay, 14. I'm sorry. Like, wait a minute.
God.
All right,
I'm only like 8 years old.
Yeah, more coming up here in moments. I just thought maybe that song was 20 years old. I didn't know. All right, so there's more on this, and we're going to get into what the valence was, and depth, I think, was the other thing. What were the 3? Valence, depth,
arousal, valence, and depth.
All right, there's more coming up here, and you can share your thoughts on whatever's on your mind. This is Free Talk Live. The number is 603-283-6160.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Biden administration has reacted angrily to a plan by OPEC Plus to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. The move, just a month before America's crucial midterm elections, comes despite the White House urging for more oil to be pumped in light of Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
This decision will have the most negative impact on lower and middle-income countries that are already reeling from elevated energy prices, reads a statement from White House officials reacting to the OPEC oil cut. It also says President Biden is disappointed at the decision and that he's calling on US energy companies to keep bringing pump prices down. But that pressure hasn't worked well before, meaning another increase in gas prices is likely in the US ahead of the midterms.
On the day Vladimir Putin formally annexed 4 parts of Ukraine and the Kremlin called them forever Russian, the European Union agreed to a fresh round of sanctions against Moscow. Brussels is moving to hit Russia's fossil fuel profits while targeting more individuals close to the Kremlin. From FSN's bureau in Brussels, Alex Kadia with more.
This is the 8th round of sanctions agreed by the European Union against Russia, this time following Moscow's illegal annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Russian individuals involved in the referenda in those regions will be targeted directly by these sanctions, and the price at which Russian oil can be purchased in the EU will also be capped, with the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggesting that a price cap on Russian gas may be next.
Russian warplanes entered Nato airspace on Wednesday, leading European countries to scramble jets in response. From Warsaw, where he's on special assignment, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The Italian Air Force confirmed in a statement Wednesday afternoon that it had scrambled Eurofighter jets to intercept 4 Russian warplanes which had entered Polish airspace. Italy currently has jets in Poland as part of a joint NATO air policing mission designed to keep Allied skies clear of Russian aircraft. The Italian Air Force said that the Russian fighter jets took off from Kaliningrad before infringing on Poland's airspace. They then turned across the Baltic Sea and entered Sweden's territory before the Italians were able to catch up with them and force them to return to base.
In the British city of Birmingham today,
on entering Downing Street to act.
UK Prime Minister Liz Truss shouted down as she made the most important speech of her political life. Greenpeace activists disrupted the Prime Minister's remarks to the Conservative Party conference before they were escorted from the hall. The Prime Minister vowed to stop what she called an anti-growth coalition from holding back the country, and she told delegates her tax-cutting agenda will lead the UK through tempest and turmoil. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join the show here. The number is 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live brought to you by Bitcoin.com. That is where you can go to learn about cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. Just click Get Started at the top of the page, and you can get some of the basics down. These are important new concepts, like why is decentralization important when it comes to money? How does that help protect you? You can go to Bitcoin.com and click Get Started to start down this wonderful odyssey of this new type of Some people would call it money. It's the ability to transmit value or send value from one person to another all across the planet without having to ask an intermediary's help, without having to use a bank or a government. So go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page. They also have the latest news headlines and detailed stories over at news.bitcoin.com. You can drop on in there anytime you want to get the latest headlines from the world of cryptocurrency. That's news.bitcoin.com. Bonnie, you were telling us about why people like the songs that they do. Why is it that people? Is it just how they're raised? How does it all? What factors in? Science apparently has been studying this. And you're sharing a story from the union leader about this.
Researchers decided that one model outlines 3 dimensions of musical attributes: arousal, valence, and depth. It says arousal is linked to the amount of energy and intensity in the music, says David M. Greenberg, a researcher at Bar-Ilan University, or Bar-Ilan, I can't tell if that's an I or 2 L's, and the University of Cambridge. Punk and heavy metal songs such as White Knuckles by Five Finger Death Punch were high on arousal, a study conducted by Greenberg and other researchers found. Valence is a spectrum from negative to positive emotions, he says. Lively rock and pop songs such as Razzle Dazzle by Bill Haley and his Comets were high on valence.
Yeah, I gotta say I prefer the faster moving tempos myself. I don't much care for sleepy music.
Ian doesn't at all tolerate sleepy music, but I would definitely say that I am way more on the side of I like high arousal songs, but I can at least listen to some things like Lana Del Rey.
It depends what mood I'm in.
Exactly.
So if I want to be I don't know. If I'm in a kind of a downer mood, then I would listen to something like Lana Del Rey.
Mm-hmm. If I can listen to anything.
He said Lana Del Rey sounds like she's in a heroin stupor.
She is. That's why.
Oh,
that was a good guess. Oh yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. But if I can listen to any music wherever, but I have a preference. So if I'm in the car, I don't want to listen to down tempo stuff. I need to be paying attention. I need to be
I totally get that.
Yeah.
I get it at some points, but it just depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I want to drive and literally listen to the Beatles, and it's more relaxing, it's more beautiful, and sometimes
I feel like a lot of their stuff's pretty upbeat.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
Well, it is pop, but it's more relaxing than your other stuff, and you seem to get annoyed with it because it's like that. I like Abbey Road and stuff like that, and you want to turn on trance. That's what I'm thinking of, or hardcore or whatever.
All right, what else?
Depth indicates both a level of emotional and intellectual complexity, Greenberg says. Quote, we found that rapper Pitbull's music would be low on depth. And classical and jazz music could be high on depth.
I see.
Also, musical attributes have interesting relationships with one another. Quote, high depth is often correlated with lower valence, so sadness in music is also invoking a depth in it, he says. We prefer music from artists whose personalities we identify with. When music, that
makes sense.
100%, because seriously, I almost never listen to male voices. I was even thinking about this about the Beatles today. The Beatles is one example of me listening to a male voice, but I don't really like a whole lot. What can I relate to with a whole bunch of male voices? I don't know how to explain it. It's just I care a lot about who's doing the singing. If I don't know who somebody is, I can't decide if I like a song. It's so weird.
How strange. To me, it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
I don't want to be listening to a loser's music.
Wow. Don't be a little judgmental there, Bonnie. Oh my goodness.
I'm judgmental.
That's okay. You get to choose what you listen to, so you have your reasons.
It says, we prefer music from artists whose personalities we identify with. Quote, when people listen to music, they're being driven by how similar that artist is to themselves, Greenberg says. In his 2021 study...
Or at least how they perceive. I mean, you don't ever know who these people are.
True.
You just know, you mentioned Lady Gaga, that's not even who she is. That's just her persona, right?
Yeah.
Yep, and that's why I get really annoyed at Stephanie sometimes.
That's the person who was born as Lady Gaga?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Says, in his 2021 study, participants rated the personality traits of artists using the Big Five model. Openness, conscientiousness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, or ocean.
So this is like their personality or their music?
Sounds like their personality.
Actual artists themselves?
Yeah, the artists. I mean, at least how they portray themselves. Because, I mean, like you said, you don't always get to know every single person.
Right.
To the respondents, David Bowie displayed high openness and neuroticism, while Marvin Gaye displayed high agreeableness.
Yeah, I agree with that.
This must be why they're in. So I mentioned I've been somewhat into K-pop. Not like I'm not an expert. I don't know who most of the bands are, and there's probably too many to even possibly know because there's so many of them. But one of the things that happens with these K-pop bands is they have a lot of like documentary kind of things that go on. There's almost like, I don't know if it's true for most of the bands, but I've seen a lot of them. They have like documentary crews with them, and they produce these sort of quote-unquote reality shows showing the bands together. And
a lot of the time that's where the bands came from. Like Twice is one of the most popular K-pop bands, and they just came from a reality show where they were all competing.
Right, that happens too. Yeah, they'll compete with one another to get into the next big band, and then when they're in the band, so they were all strangers. A lot of these people, they didn't know each other. They're completely manufactured. And then they put them in, put camera people around them, and they go do a show, or they go out to eat, or whatever it is that they're doing. And so it's like they're trying to get their audience to know them better, to create that bond, to make them loyal fans.
There was an American show like that, but I can't remember the bands that came from it.
Oh, American. Oh no, it was a band, or is it the one where people
it was like
sing?
it was like a girl band.
Was it Pussycat Dolls?
Maybe.
I know that they were really manufactured, but I don't know a lot about them.
No, it came from like a TV show, like a reality show.
Okay, because there was that one show, American something, where
American Idol?
Idol, that's right.
Yeah, no, but the person that did win typically became famous. Like Kelly Clarkson was the first winner, and she got really famous from it. But this was like
Carrie Underwood.
like forming an actual girl group.
I see. Huh.
But I agree, because the K-pop fans are like some of the most serious fans in the world, and they feel like they know each one. They really care about like, to me, I like Twice as a group. I like their music, and I think they're all pretty, but I don't care about each individual one. I'm not like, oh, Suna is my favorite blah 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 because she does this or whatever. I don't even remember if that's actually her name, the one I'm thinking of. But some people like act like they really know them and care a lot about each personality. But with K-pop, that's just not the case for me, because I just know how manufactured they are. I don't know.
Well, they're manufactured, but they are all people, and they all have their preferences and quirks, and so it's really actually smart of those production companies to do all that extra content about the band to get people to identify with them and stick with them and be loyal, because then they're not just interchangeable pretty girls to them. They feel like they're bonded. And there's a term that sort of, I'll have to look up what it is, like something relationship. Parasocial. That's what it is. Parasocial relationship. And it was, I think I first heard about it in a story about Twitch streamers. So this is kind of the same aspect to the Twitch streaming. For listeners that aren't familiar, we stream on Twitch. It's one of our many platforms. We don't talk about it a lot, but we are there. And these gamers that stream on Twitch, they create a relationship with their viewers where the viewer thinks that they know the person. And of course, they don't know who the viewers are. If they're very popular, they almost never get to, even see the same person more than once unless they're paying a lot of money. But it's that bond. It's sort of this one-way bond. It's not really real, but it certainly benefits.
But they'll still say, I love you.
Yeah, more coming up. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Looking into why it is people like the music that they like, and science, quote unquote, has been looking at this. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And your calls and thoughts are certainly welcome as well. The number here is 603-283-6160. And don't forget, you can join us online anytime you want. Just go to freetalklive.com. Lots of features there. If you want to get into our Matrix chat server, where people are right now talking about musical preferences and such, you can go to chat.freetalklive.com. They don't always talk about what we talk about on the air, but sometimes they do. Over at chat.freetalklive.com. We're going to go to your phone calls first, and I think Bonnie has some more to share from the story. Jamie is on the line in Alabama. Go ahead, Jamie.
Hey, yeah. I just want to say that I grew up on 70s and 80s and 90s rock.
Okay.
Is that still what you listen to today?
Yep, I listened to it since I was a little kid growing up.
So, have you ever heard anything that has come out more recently, and is it just all a turnoff to you, or do you just try to avoid it in general?
No, not really.
I'm not sure what the no, not really was.
It's good or bad?
Oh, it's good. It's that new song from Ozzy.
With Post Malone in it?
No, the one that goes, I don't believe in Jesus.
So Ozzy's got a new song out? Like how new are we
Ozzy
talking?
Osbourne?
Yeah.
Yep, Ozzy Osbourne.
Actually, I think that Captain played it for us, Ian. So that's kind of familiar. But he had a song in 2019 with Post Malone and Travis Scott, and not gonna lie, I actually really liked it.
I did not know that.
It's not my style at all, and I just actually really like that song.
So
My
are you saying
typical
you
style.
liked the new song from Ozzy because it's an old artist that you're familiar with, so it had some familiarity? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Who's your favorite artist of all time?
Ooh, tough question.
Oh, God. That'd be AC/DC.
All right, yeah, a true fan of 70s, 80s, and 90s rock, no doubt. As I understand it, they are still together, still playing.
Well, Bon Scott's dead.
Well, he's been dead for a long
Yeah.
time.
Really?
Bon Scott, yeah.
What is the new?
Brian Johnson is the new singer.
the new singer. Yeah,
He's been there for
He's been there for
decades.
exactly. But
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, there you go, Jamie. You learned something tonight. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you
thanks.
sharing your thoughts here tonight. So yeah, some people's tastes never change, right? They get into what they were into when they were growing up, and they just listen to that on out till they die.
I mean, Britney Spears will probably be like one of my something I'll listen to until I'll die. And she's never making any more music apparently.
Oh, she's calling it quits?
Well, I heard
Good
that she
for
was
her.
calling it quits, but
she deserves it. She's put in her time.
Does she finally have access to her money?
I think so. I was kind of following the court case and all that stuff, but I didn't really.
I didn't memorize stuff at the time. I just was like, oh, okay, this isn't as free as the media is trying to make it seem, and just kind of dropped off paying attention. All I know is it's not like she's just totally free now. It's just like she got moved from her dad being in control of everything to someone else being in control of most things.
It's so messed up. It's like, why? I don't really care how mentally ill someone is unless they're a danger to society. No one should have control over their life and their finances. That
crazy.
just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, they just argue she's a danger to society. It's just you can just say that about a person, and a judge can just say, okay, it's true, because they're also getting paid off or they're involved or whatever.
Apparently the new Ozzy song is a team up with Eric Clapton.
Oh, cool.
And it's called One of Those Days. Will be appearing on his upcoming studio album, Patient Number 9. How old is Ozzy Osbourne right now?
He's probably almost 80.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But he's pretty sick. He has, not MS. What is it? What does he have?
73. He's not quite as old as I thought he was.
I can't, right? He has some sort of neurological disorder that he just got diagnosed with, but...
Yeah, I think I saw him
Parkinson's. He has Parkinson's.
I saw him in the news because I guess he's moved back to the UK out of frustration with politics or something in the US, as though the UK somehow...
Right, as if it's better.
He's not allowed in San Antonio because he peed on the Alamo.
Oh, wow.
But that was a long time ago, though. That was probably in the 80s.
Was that when he was biting heads off
I
of
still don't
things?
think he's allowed there. They take the Alamo pretty
Oh
seriously.
God.
They should forgive Ozzy. I don't think he wants to go there anyways. But
all right. What other things do we need to know, Bonnie, about musical preference and why people like what they like?
They explained that there are different traits of personalities that they categorize different artists as. Like Marvin Gaye displayed high agreeableness. And it goes on, quote, the match between the personality of the listener and the artist was predictive of the musical preferences for the artist beyond just the attributes from the music, Greenberg says. Personality traits may predict people's musical taste, researchers say. In a 2022 study, Greenberg and his colleagues found that despite socio-cultural differences, participants around the world displayed personality traits that were consistently correlated with their preferences for certain genres of Western music.
Okay.
Extroversion, for example, was linked to a preference for upbeat contemporary music, and openness was linked to a preference for sophisticated or cerebral styles. Our cognitive styles and how we think may also predict what type of music we may like. A 2015 study by Greenberg and his colleagues distinguishes between systemizers and empathizers, people who understand the world through thoughts and emotions versus people who are interested in rules and systems. Empathizers, so that one would be emotional
Those
people
who are emotional, yeah.
tend to prefer sadness in music, whereas systemizers prefer more intensity in music. Untrue of Ian.
I don't know if that... that just seems like super black and white to me.
Yeah,
you know
it
what I
does,
mean?
it
Like,
does.
it's like you're either this or you're this.
Well, they're probably just making a general statement here, and obviously there are exceptions to these rules.
Says a lot of IT and data science professionals are high on systemizing and also prefer really intense music. Also, both empathizers and systemizers listen to music with high depth, but empathizers prefer attributes that represent emotional depth, and systemizers prefer attributes that represent intellectual depth and technical complexity.
So like somebody that's a really good guitar soloist or a drum solo or something like that. My preference, I like the electronic music. Now I realize there's a wide range. I like the trance. I find that has both emotional hit and also complexity as well, because with electronic
so much going
music
on.
With electronic music, you're not limited by the human's ability to play a particular instrument. You can literally have as many instruments as you want to. It's very much an old girlfriend of mine described it as sort of like the new symphony orchestra, right? Like back in the day,
that's a good way to put it.
You would have, if you were a big composer, you'd have a bunch of people who would play your compositions, and the cellos and the basses and drums or whatever else you would want. And now you can have that all in a computer program, and more.
See, for me, that doesn't feel like really soulful, though. Like, I like to go to like a lot of live concerts, so there's something about seeing an artist like actually playing their instrument on stage
that with electronic music.
That speaks to me. But recently, I went to a metal show with Aria, actually, and I was surprised. Most of what I listened to is classic rock and kind of older styles of rock and roll. But with this metal music, it was like
this is a modern.
A modern metal
Younger
band.
people.
Yeah, it was Butcher Babies and Lacuna Coil.
Okay.
So they're playing the instruments on stage, but then the speakers were playing something else as well. So it was like, they're up there playing their instruments, but then there's like backup music playing from the speakers.
That's unusual.
And it really turned me off, actually.
Oh, wow.
Because I still loved the music and I still enjoyed those bands, but I just never experienced that before, because I'm going to see jam bands and like classic rock bands and older rock and roll bands. So I just had never experienced that.
So it was like a backing track to a live show?
Yeah, it was
basically?
weird. It was because when I go to see a concert, my brain is thinking I'm only hearing the instruments and the voices that are on stage. And every once in a while you might have a sound effect or a keyboardist or something like that. But it was like they were playing, one song they were playing female audio, like female vocals, and there was no females on the stage. So I was like, that's just weird. It was an experience that I hadn't had before at a concert.
And it was a turnoff to you.
Yeah, it was.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
And maybe it's a budget cutting thing. Maybe
I think it's just the style of music, honestly.
You don't think it was that they just didn't want to pay the lady to go and sing on stage?
No, I think it was just the style, because I said something to Aria and she was like, her response was kind of like, oh, that's weird that you think that's weird, kind of thing. So I think it was
Get with it, Nikki.
Yeah, I think it was just like the style of music, and I just wasn't used to it.
Well, lots of singers, they have background singers or background vocals playing on the speakers while they're actually singing, because you can't sing both parts.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense, but this was different.
You mean at a live show?
Yeah, because you can't sing both parts at once, even though it's both your voice.
If it was they who originally sang both parts, you mean?
Yeah.
Right, because sometimes at a big show, you'll have backup singers at a show.
Yeah.
And that'll be done live. There's more coming up here in moments. 603-283-6160. It is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Biden administration has reacted angrily to a plan by OPEC Plus to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. The move, just a month before America's crucial midterm elections, comes despite the White House urging for more oil to be pumped in light of Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
This decision will have the most negative impact on lower and middle-income countries that are already reeling from elevated energy prices, reads a statement from White House officials reacting to the OPEC oil cut. It also says President Biden is disappointed at the decision and that he's calling on US energy companies to keep bringing pump prices down. But that pressure hasn't worked well before, meaning another increase in gas prices is likely in the US ahead of the midterms.
On the day Vladimir Putin formally annexed 4 parts of Ukraine and the Kremlin called them forever Russian, the European Union agreed to a fresh round of sanctions against Moscow. Brussels is moving to hit Russia's fossil fuel profits while targeting more individuals close to the Kremlin. From FSN's bureau in Brussels, Alex Kadia with more.
This is the 8th round of sanctions agreed by the European Union against Russia, this time following Moscow's illegal annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Russian individuals involved in the referenda in those regions will be targeted directly by these sanctions, and the price at which Russian oil can be purchased in the EU will also be capped, with the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggesting that a price cap on Russian gas may be next.
Russian warplanes entered Nato airspace on Wednesday, leading European countries to scramble jets in response. From Warsaw, where he's on special assignment, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The Italian Air Force confirmed in a statement Wednesday afternoon that it had scrambled Eurofighter jets to intercept 4 Russian warplanes which had entered Polish airspace. Italy currently has jets in Poland as part of a joint NATO air policing mission designed to keep Allied skies clear of Russian aircraft. The Italian Air Force said that the Russian fighter jets took off from Kaliningrad before infringing on Poland's airspace. They then turned across the Baltic Sea and entered Sweden's territory before the Italians were able to catch up with them and force them to return to base.
In the British city of Birmingham today,
on entering Downing Street to act.
UK Prime Minister Liz Truss shouted down as she made the most important speech of her political life. Greenpeace activists disrupted the Prime Minister's remarks to the Conservative Party conference before they were escorted from the hall. The Prime Minister vowed to stop what she called an anti-growth coalition from holding back the country, and she told delegates her tax-cutting agenda will lead the UK through tempest and turmoil. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, one of the 4 women chosen to spend 5 months in the Antarctic running a post office. No, there really is one there, on an island without a single permanent resident. It is described as the most remote and coldest post office on Earth. But Britain's Antarctic Heritage Trust has selected an all-female team out of 6,000 applicants to head to Goodyear Island in the west of the Antarctic Peninsula. They'll live in a facility without electricity or a functional toilet. 40-year-old Lucy Bruzone, a geographer who works at the University of Cambridge, will be the team's leader.
My family and friends are relatively used to me heading off on random adventures, so I think they all think I'm a little bit mad, but really looking forward to learning more about the UK Antarctic Heritage Trust bases that are down in Antarctica and all the history that goes on there. There's not a long history of women in Antarctica, so it's a really unique opportunity for us to show a different story, and particularly the base that we're going to be working on was set up by a fully male team and was run many years by a male-dominated group. So the opportunity to change the story and tell a different story is a great one too.
She calls Antarctica the ultimate destination for any geographer and says she's eager to share the experience with visitors and those keeping track of the team's progress from afar. The main news again, the Biden administration has reacted angrily to a plan by OPEC Plus to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. The president called the proposal short-sighted. On the day Vladimir Putin formally annexed 4 parts of Ukraine, the European Union agreed to a fresh round of sanctions against Moscow. And UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has vowed to stop what she called an anti-growth coalition from holding back the country. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. According to friends, colleagues, and complete strangers, anxiety-ridden man Timothy Gibbula is rightly ashamed of every single thing he does, with mere acquaintances saying they're constantly judging Gibbula at every moment, just as he suspects.
Tim's the kind of guy who's forever second-guessing his behavior, as if everyone's constantly scrutinizing him, and he's completely correct. We all are.
We can spend entire afternoons picking apart Tim's taste in clothing and his receding hairline. It's honestly all we do when he's not around.
Anytime he awkwardly says excuse me when he's waiting in line for milk or sugar, anytime he fails to make eye contact with me when he asks me for the Wi-Fi password. Not only do I notice these things, but I use them to judge him fundamentally as a human being.
A 3-alarm fire that tore through a family home in Newark, Delaware early Saturday morning tragically claimed a half sleeve of Oreo cookies that were trapped inside a cupboard. At the time of the blaze, the residence was occupied by Mike and Sheila Donlan, their 3 young children, and 6 delicious chocolate sandwich cookies, all half dozen of which perished in the intense heat and towering flames.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open here if you want to join us. The number is 603-283-6160. Whether you want to weigh in on people's musical tastes or difficulty paying the bills due to government inflation, inflating the money supply. Those are some of the things we've discussed here tonight. With you in the studio, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
We're going to go back to your phone calls and thoughts as well. Of course, phones are open here every night at 603-283-6160. We also talked about skimpflation, which is not the same thing as shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is where companies sneakily try to slim down product packaging in order to keep the price the same on the shelves, while skimpflation is where they're skimping out on quality. They're reformulating. They're putting in more water into certain products.
I don't like that word. Every time you say it, my brain is thinking scrimp, and I'm like, isn't it scrimp? And I'm like, wait, no, it's skimp, like you were saying.
Scrimping would be like scrimp and save, right?
Oh, okay, that's why. Okay. I was like, but I was thinking it was like the silly way to say shrimp that keeps popping in my head.
So you want to comment on that, you're welcome to, but we're going to go to your phone calls first here. We got Matt. He's on the line. He is in New Hampshire. He is the one of the creators of the New Hampshire Independence PAC, which is a fundraising organization for freedom lovers here in New Hampshire that are running for office that also are willing to support New Hampshire independence, that is to say, secession from a peaceful one from the United States. Matt, welcome. What's on your mind?
Ian, Bonnie, and Nikki, thank you so much for having me tonight, guys. I had a question for you all. Do you guys have any plans Friday night?
Yes, Nick, I almost said Nikki. Bonnie and I are planning to go to the New Hampshire Independence party, I guess. I don't know if you would call it a party, but it's a gathering of some sort that you and some others are putting
I was going to
on.
go to the hot dog party, but...
The hot dog party?
I meant to say hot tub, but it did kind of come out like hot dog.
There might be a hot tub there. I don't know.
I think that's the Mises event in Stratham.
Yeah, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm going to the Independence thing at the warehouse.
That's correct. Yeah, we have the NIPAC Independence Summit as part of the Weir Free Fair at the Warehouse this Friday night. Festivities will be beginning at 4, and then we have 4 presenters speaking this Friday night. It's going to be we have a great presentation. We have Elliot Axelman and Stephen Villi from the Foundation of New Hampshire Independence.
Good.
We have Jordan Cannon from the Connecticut River 8 and the New Switzerland Project as well. That'll be interesting to see him talk. And then as our keynotes, we have Matt Rhodes from the John Birch Society as well. So if you're interested in New Hampshire independence and you want people to want to learn more about it, come on down to the warehouse this Friday.
Well, first of all, most of our audience isn't going to be coming down because they don't live in New Hampshire. We've got people all over the United States and elsewhere listening. But what I thought was interesting about this is the aspect that there is more than one party basically happening, more than one what could be fairly large gathering occurring on the very same night. So you mentioned that there was like a hot tub party for the Mises caucus going on somewhere on the seacoast apparently, and then your event is kind of happening in the middle of the state in a town called Weir, New Hampshire, or Ware, I guess, New Hampshire. And so, of course, the other takeaway is that New Hampshire's independence movement is large, it's growing, it's doing things, even though this is quote-unquote downtime because it's an election season. As far as it's downtime as far as like new legislation being put in. That's coming a little bit later this year. But part of this event, as I understand it, Matt, is to get the state reps to come out, hopefully, and talk to one another. I mean, obviously they encounter one another when they're at the State House, but then they're doing quote-unquote business and, they're focused on certain things. Isn't the idea here to get them together to talk about maybe a strategy for the upcoming legislative session?
That's exactly that. We do have a plan for following all of our speakers to have them all sit down. We've got some space available for us to sit down and strategize and plan and network to go about the best way that New Hampshire can become independent long term. If you've been seeing the news out in Eastern Europe, and the world's in a pretty bad spot right now, and I think we gotta show that we're confident in what we can do for the future for our state.
Yeah, I like this because I think that the New Hampshire Independence PAC has helped ramp things up, and that's what needs to be happening here. The state reps that really put it all on the line last year when they put forward the bill, CACR 32, that was the first ever, this historic bill that, had it passed, would have allowed the people of New Hampshire to actually vote on declaring a peaceful independence from the United States. Unfortunately, it did not pass. We didn't expect that it would, but it did get a conversation started.
Oh, yeah, like all over the world.
It got the state reps on the record. They had to vote. They were forced to put a yes or a no on this thing. So we knew who supported it. We knew who was quietly telling us they supported it, but then didn't actually do anything about it.
Which is important to know.
Yeah, and we know who spoke vociferously against it. And the good news is the biggest person who spoke against it, this young guy, Brody DeShays, lost in the primary this time around.
That's correct.
There's some bad news, though, too. Mike Sylvia, who was the prime sponsor of the bill, also lost.
I think it was unrelated, though. It had way more to do with the huge campaign they ran against him because he tried to audit the Gunstock Mountain,
which is a state-run ski resort.
Yes. So they ran a crazy campaign against him, like, he's an extremist, he's trying to destroy Gunstock.
And the governor himself went on an attack against
because Mike Sylvia found out that the governor, Chris Sununu, was laundering money through Gunstock, so of course he went on the attack.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not all good news, but nobody expected to be out as a supporter of secession and not have to take some arrows from the other side.
True.
So it's still go ahead.
Yep. No, I just want to say that all of those reps who voted for CACR 32, we have a lot of courage in the State House, and if you do want to see the reps who we've endorsed make it, we will have opportunities to sign up for door knocking for the general election this Friday as well.
Yep, and some of the other things that have changed between now and then, your PAC was formed this year. That's something new. That did not exist a year ago. So that again shows that things are moving forward. There's new things happening in the area. It wasn't just some sort of one and done thing. It's like, okay, we're building on something that we've created. There was the incident that happened with Karen. A literal Karen had filed a complaint a couple months, several weeks ago at this point, with the Ballot Law Commission. A bunch of us came out to oppose her on that. She was trying to actually get the state reps who had supported independence banned from running for office ever again. She failed at her attempt there, so that was a win on our part. And
that was a great day.
It was a wonderful day, and the video is pretty entertaining too.
Take that, Karen.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Karen's loss in front of the Ballot Law Commission, check it out at nhexit.us. And then, again, building on the courageous state reps that already exist, you have the New Hampshire Foundation for New Hampshire Independence did a really interesting poll this summer that actually was the first ever serious poll that was done about secession. It was all the questions that we wanted to ask people like us instead of what the mainstream media or some mainstream pollster or whatever would cook up. So we actually got the right questions asked and found that it's almost a third of people in New Hampshire already support New Hampshire being an independent nation.
And more than half of Republicans.
Correct. So that to me is a really exciting starting point to keep this ball rolling and gain more momentum, and then be able to point to those numbers, to those fence-sitting state reps that were too afraid to sign on this time. Maybe we'll be able to persuade some of them. And of course, the New Hampshire Independence PAC is out there collecting money. They're raising money, and they're giving some of that money to these state rep candidates to help them with their campaigns, which of course what a PAC basically exists to do is to promote certain candidates and certain ideas. So can you plug the New Hampshire Independence PAC website, Matt, and whatever else we need to know?
Yep, NIPAC.org, NHIPAC.org. We're on Twitter. We're on Gab. Check us out. Feel free to donate. Check out our candidates' websites as well.
That's NHIPAC.org. And you don't have to be in New Hampshire to contribute to this, right?
That's correct. It's got to be in America.
Okay, very good. Thanks for the update here tonight. Definitely appreciate hearing from you. That's Matt. He's one of the guys behind the New Hampshire Independence PAC. Again, hoping to move this ball forward.
It's only the beginning.
Right. Bring some more state reps on board. And, of course, bring more freedom-loving people here to New Hampshire, whether it be as part of the Free State Project or just because you care about liberty, and especially if you care about independence. You really want to be here, because the more people we can get here, the bigger this movement becomes, the more influence that it has, and the sooner we can possibly get out from underneath the crushing boot of the federal government thugs calling themselves the United States of America. More coming up.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
Inflation, a sidelined labor force, and ever-increasing interest rates. It's the perfect storm for pushing the U.S. economy over the edge. Savvy investors are diversifying into gold and silver with BullionMax.com. You can buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals will ship fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live listeners can now order one of BullionMax's most popular products, the Goldback. Now in stock, but supplies are going fast. To get your Goldbacks, go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Does this ever happen to you? Moments after you're introduced to someone, you forget his or her name. It's a common faux pas you'll want to avoid, especially if you're a job seeker. And even if you're not, here's a tip. As you are being introduced, and while you're still shaking hands, smiling, and making eye contact, say the person's name aloud. Not only does that make a deposit in your memory bank, it acknowledges the other person. And that is more than a nuance, as is maintaining eye contact. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. Cutting through the clutter rather than blending into the blah, blah, blah will help you connect better, no matter what the conversation. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join the show here, bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
Don't forget, you can join us anytime you want over at freetalklive.com. Lots of features are there. We have our social media site. You can go to social.freetalklive.com and you can interact with other Free Talk Live listeners and some of the hosts of the show there. And it is our site. We run the server. It is not some big tech mega corporation thing. So that means you have way more freedom to express yourself at social.freetalklive.com. Hop on over there. We've been talking about music, musical preferences, what science has to say about it. We can continue down that road. But first, Major Payne is on the line in Michigan. Go ahead, Major.
You were talking about also the other shrinking panes. I was thinking about inkflation. You know these store receipts?
Oh, yeah.
Hang on.
Huh?
Oh, are you saying that the store receipts are getting smaller? Yep, we're hearing you.
If like you go to Home Depot or wherever and you buy something, you're not quite sure it'll work.
Mm-hmm.
But if that receipt gets exposed to too much heat, like you put it in your wallet or leave it on the dashboard,
Well, yeah, they're thermal.
that ink will disappear in like 2-3
Because
weeks.
it's not really ink, it's like a thermal thing.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so
That's true.
that money magically disappears.
I think that that is actually part of what they're intending to do is and it'll happen if you just leave it on like your refrigerator or something. It doesn't have to be
never noticed that.
heated. I think they just fade over time.
Yeah.
But they're trying to get it to where you can't go get your money back?
That's his theory.
If they can't read the receipt, if it's not legible,
you didn't buy it.
Get it emailed.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
But I called in to defend Nikki a little bit.
All right.
Thank you.
We were all attacking her.
Yeah, I know, you vampires. behave yourselves. You children fight nice. I've told that to many, many kids on many, many crews through the years. Anyway, and I congratulate you and your other brethren for going out and slaying the deer and dragging it home. We all got to do that every damn day.
What?
I was talking about your politicians you was just talking with, how you guys are all getting united and trying to get your poop in a group and what.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
They carry their end of the log, so to speak.
Was that what you were calling about?
What were you defending Nikki about?
Oh, well, the first concert, I got another thought about Jimi Hendrix, too, but the first concert I ever saw was in 1972. I was only 12 years old. It was Cheech and Chong.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty funny.
Oh, yeah. Talk about an opening act. How can you trump that for your first concert?
Wow. Now, had you already gotten high at that time, at age 12?
Well, there was a couple of hippies sitting next to me, and they started passing us their hippie sticks, and so we consumed some.
Hold on. The first time you smoked weed was at a Cheech and Chong concert at the age of 12?
Yes, sir.
That's amazing.
Man, I knew you were cool, but I didn't know you were that cool.
That's pretty cool, Major.
Well, we tried the summer before. Freddie, one of my buddies, he discovered Michigan weed, and there ain't no tea in it. I don't think you can smoke like 5 of them, maybe get a headache, but that didn't work. But yeah, that was the first time. But anyway, the opening act for them was a group they called the Fluorescent Leech and Eddie. And I know you guys got to be wondering about the Fluorescent Leech. He was a big, very white, pasty, whale-bellied fella. So he'd peel off his shirt, and there's the Fluorescent Leech. And Eddie looked a lot like he could have been one of the Winter Brothers' bastard cousins.
So these were the opening act for Cheech and Chong?
Beard. Huh?
This was the opening act for Cheech and Chong?
Yeah. They later became Flo and Eddie. You want to look them up on the internet.
That sounds kind of familiar, but I don't know a whole lot about them. How about Firesign Theater? Did you ever listen to Firesign Theater back in the day?
Oh, yeah, most certainly.
Yeah, that stuff was pretty far out, too. Hey, thanks, Major, for the call tonight. Appreciate hearing from you. The number is 603-283-6160. Let's talk to Jessica in Missouri. Jessica. Oh, do we have her still? Jessica going once. Jessica going twice. She was there, but...
I guess not.
If she's the one I'm thinking of, I liked her, and we haven't heard from her in a while.
She had a really bad connection. Well, she was standing in a really echoey room, so I asked her if she could move to a different room. So maybe she'll call back when she has a better place that she can stand to talk. So the number here is 603-283-6160. Bonnie, was there more from this story about the science and the musical preferences that you thought you should share with us?
Yes. It says, while personality may be one determinant of our musical preferences, another could be the context, which makes a lot of sense. Like, you don't want to listen, like you guys were saying, you like more upbeat music in the car. Minsu Park and his colleagues identified temporal patterns in listening behavior. People tend to listen to relaxing music in the evening and energetic music during the day. This fluctuation is almost identical regardless of your cultural location and other demographic information, says Park, assistant professor of social research and public policy at New York University, Abu Dhabi.
A lot of this stuff seems like no-brainer, obvious stuff, right? Like, obviously people are going to be more down-tempo when their rhythms are gearing towards sleep.
It literally adds up to me as far as when I would start doing Uber Eats in the day and I'd be listening to like Aqua and just like lots of up-tempo things. And then towards the end of the day, I would just switch on something. I would find myself listening to more calm things like Casey Musgraves.
Okay.
There is, however, a baseline difference between people from different cultures. In Latin America, people tend to listen to more arousing music compared to other people or people in other regions. And in Asia, they tend to listen to more relaxing music than people in other regions. And I gotta say, Asia does relaxing music really well. Like, I started getting into relaxing music earlier this June by hearing old K-pop. Well, old as in like early 2000s K-pop. And there's an album called Mellow... So, dang, I wish I could remember it right now. It has the word mellow in it. It's just such a good mellow album. I can't understand a word of it, and it's so good.
But it's still considered K-pop?
Yeah, it's pop music. It's just really mellow.
I was thinking of like spa music. You know how they have that like Asian style spa music?
It kind
So
of
like
does sound
down
like
tempo,
that.
I'm like, yeah, getting a massage, a facial.
The song You Can Fly is on the album.
Okay.
Age and gender are also linked with certain kinds of music. Younger people tend to like intense music, and older people tend to dislike it. Greenberg's research shows listeners of mellow music are more likely to be women, and listeners of intense music are more likely to be men from the Western Hemisphere.
Okay.
There also are age trends in how people engage with music. In 2013, a 2013 study determined A 2013 study that examined data from 2 studies of more than 250,000 individuals showed that young people listen to music significantly more often than do middle-aged adults, and young people listen to music in a wide variety of contexts, whereas adults listen to music primarily in private contexts.
Oh, well, I guess.
You know, like hanging out and listening to music isn't really an old people thing.
I think it is. Old people always put on the radio and like listen to music. Like boomer generation people, I feel like they always have the radio on.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, she's saying it was, 250,000 people in that study or something? It was pretty big.
Maybe I just know cool people.
Could be. Well, and people that grew up with, like, the music habit, like rockers or whatever.
Yeah, or like putting on records in the living room and
they
stuff.
probably keep that habit. I don't know. It's interesting, though. More coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts. It's Free Talk Live.
Did you or someone you love work, live, or serve at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988? If you or someone you know lived, served, or worked at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1988 and has cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, they are entitled to compensation. To see if they are eligible, they need to call Liberty Legal. Contaminants in the drinking water have led to these serious diseases, and legislation is now available for veterans and family members who may qualify for financial help from the government. There may be a time deadline, so don't wait. Call 888-918-1037. Anyone that has lived, worked, or served at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1988 and has had cancer, Parkinson's disease, or another serious health issue, the money is already set aside. 888-918-1037. 888-918-1037.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks. The Biden administration has reacted angrily to a plan by OPEC Plus to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day. The move, just a month before America's crucial midterm elections, comes despite the White House urging for more oil to be pumped in light of Vladimir Putin's war on Ukraine. From FSN's Washington Bureau, Caroline Malone reports.
This decision will have the most negative impact on lower and middle-income countries that are already reeling from elevated energy prices, reads a statement from White House officials reacting to the OPEC oil cut. It also says President Biden is disappointed at the decision and that he's calling on US energy companies to keep bringing pump prices down. But that pressure hasn't worked well before, meaning another increase in gas prices is likely in the US ahead of the midterms.
On the day Vladimir Putin formally annexed 4 parts of Ukraine and the Kremlin called them forever Russian, the European Union agreed to a fresh round of sanctions against Moscow. Brussels is moving to hit Russia's fossil fuel profits while targeting more individuals close to the Kremlin. From FSN's bureau in Brussels, Alex Kadia with more.
This is the 8th round of sanctions agreed by the European Union against Russia, this time following Moscow's illegal annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions. Russian individuals involved in the referenda in those regions will be targeted directly by these sanctions, and the price at which Russian oil can be purchased in the EU will also be capped, with the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggesting that a price cap on Russian gas may be next.
Russian warplanes entered Nato airspace on Wednesday, leading European countries to scramble jets in response. From Warsaw, where he's on special assignment, FSN's Trent Murray reports.
The Italian Air Force confirmed in a statement Wednesday afternoon that it had scrambled Eurofighter jets to intercept 4 Russian warplanes which had entered Polish airspace. Italy currently has jets in Poland as part of a joint NATO air policing mission designed to keep Allied skies clear of Russian aircraft. The Italian Air Force said that the Russian fighter jets took off from Kaliningrad before infringing on Poland's airspace. They then turned across the Baltic Sea and entered Sweden's territory before the Italians were able to catch up with them and force them to return to base.
In the British city of Birmingham today,
On entering Downing Street to act.
UK Prime Minister Liz Truss shouted down as she made the most important speech of her political life. Greenpeace activists disrupted the Prime Minister's remarks to the Conservative Party conference before they were escorted from the hall. The Prime Minister vowed to stop what she called an anti-growth coalition from holding back the country, and she told delegates her tax-cutting agenda will lead the UK through tempest and turmoil. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us here. Bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here tonight, it's Ian.
It's Bonnie.
And Nikki.
And you can join us online. Just head over to freetalklive.com and please enjoy the features you'll find there for free. We've got RSS feeds. You can follow our podcast, subscribe to it on your favorite podcast client. You can find that link over at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com, as well as links to some of the major platforms that we're also on, like iHeartMedia or I think Spotify and those sorts of things. They're there as well. Once again, that's feeds.freetalklive.com. We got Jessica back on the line here, hopefully in Missouri. Jessica, are you with us?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can actually hear you. Go ahead. What's on your mind tonight?
Okay. I wanted to bring up the subject of food stamps, one of the more popular, I guess, entitlement programs, being as that we, the taxpayers, pay for the food people on food stamps get, which, by the way, is better than what I get. They can, with those food stamps, buy steaks and chops and shrimps and all this stuff, and I can't get that on my income.
Right.
But anyway, I think that we, the taxpayers that pay for that, we should have a say in what they can buy on food stamps.
Yeah, that's not an unreasonable position to come from. Obviously, I don't think they should exist at all. I think that people that are in need of help should go to charitable organizations like, the Salvation Army or
There'd be a
whatever.
ton of them if people weren't being stolen from. There'd be way more charity organizations than exist now because people are stolen from already. So why would they feel they have to create or...
It's like, well, a lot of people on food stamps sell the food stamps to other people for money, cash money, so they can buy drugs and stuff.
Absolutely.
But I think that really, if you're on food stamps, you shouldn't be able to buy donuts and cakes and puddings and sugary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's going to cause you to have all kinds of diabetes that we're going to have to pay for your Medicaid.
Well, the government doesn't want to do that because people who are just eating a bunch of sugar and soy all day are easy to control because they're unhealthy and dependent and fat.
Well, and that's the whole point of welfare, is to make people dependent. And I tell this story all the time. I have one of my very good friends. She is legitimately disabled, and she gets some money from the government. She's not allowed to have more, and I forget the actual number, but it's either $2,000 or $5,000. She's not allowed to have that amount of money in her bank account, or else she gets fined by the state. But they're playing it off like them giving her money is helping her. No, it's keeping her poor.
Wow.
It's keeping her dependent on the state. And she got a part-time job. They gave her too many hours. She made too much money, and they fined her $10,000.
Oh my God.
Holy moly.
But they're helping her, right? They're helping the disabled people and the poor people. No, they're not.
Yeah,
they're subjugating the disabled people to abject poverty is what they're doing.
That is so tragic and so sad. And of course, the more people that are on these systems, the more they want them to grow, and they demand more benefits, and the bureaucrats demand bigger budgets, and they get more people that they want to get hooked on this stuff, and they never get off. And then it becomes a generational problem.
Absolutely,
too.
it is. Yeah.
Because the people that are on these programs, well, we were just talking about young people absorbing the musical preferences of their parents. Well, guess what? They also, in a lot of cases, absorb the financial preferences and beliefs of their parents. Not always true, right? Some people growing up in a household with loser parents will rise above their station and maybe be motivated by their parents being, shiftless losers and make something out of their lives. But in a lot of cases, they see the gravy train. They're like, oh, why should I work when I can just get paid to not work? Jessica, anything else you want to share about it?
No, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the call tonight. But yeah, I mean, the point I think was really clear that it doesn't matter if you put restrictions, right? Like she was talking about putting restrictions on what these people can buy.
Yeah, you can sell them,
and that's how they get around it. So, you give me a food stamps worth, I don't know what they even are, like $200, $500, $1,000, I don't know.
It depends how many kids you have.
Yeah, so you get $1,000 worth of food stamps, you sell it on the black market for 50%.
And then you're getting meth with it.
And then you can buy whatever junk food or meth
junk food.
or alcohol.
Yeah, and your kids still aren't eating.
Right. So that's why, again, abolishing these systems is the only way to move forward. And that is the most compassionate thing to do, by the way. Some people out there might be saying, well, you don't care about people. You don't want to help them. No. The idea is to actually get them help from people who really care about them.
Yeah.
Like people that, whether it be a church group, and again, Salvation Army is a religious group. And that said, you can quibble about their religious beliefs if you want to, but the fact is they help a lot of people.
Well, you wouldn't have to quibble about the religious beliefs if they were just open market on that type of thing, and people weren't being stolen from all the time, so that way they could, decide to open their own charitable organizations and things like that.
Yeah. There could be an atheist run charity. I don't see them around right now, but maybe they would pop up because a lot of atheists believe in the state, right? For a lot of atheists, the state is their God. They will never admit that, but that is absolutely
for a lot of
truth.
Christians, the state is also their God, and they will never admit that.
True.
There's no doubt about it. But the fact is, the Salvation Army and these other groups that have been around, they know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time, and they have a system that, it's successful, right, to some extent, at getting people off of these, the reliance on the programs and things like that. You give them a little bit to get them back on their feet, but then you check back in with them. You follow up. Whereas a state program is like, oh, did you fill out the forms correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's your check.
Well, and I remember being a kid, and we would do a food drive every year, and we would take all of the non-perishables that we didn't want to eat or whatever, clear out our cabinets from all the extra stuff, send it in, and there were
to the food bank, the local food bank.
Yep, and there were a lot of families that did that. So I'm sure, and obviously that's not fresh produce, but I'm sure, so much fresh produce gets thrown away from the grocery store. So there are creative ways where people can get access to food if they are hungry. We don't need food stamps. We don't need EBT cards. And, people don't need to be collecting money from the state.
We just don't need to be stolen from to help these people. That's all.
And that was my next point. Like, the state also doesn't need to be collecting money from me.
The local food bank here, as I understand it, if you walk in there and you tell them that you need help, you'll walk out with a box full of food.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, it is just...
no questions asked. They don't can I see your W-2? No. How much? Give me a pay stub or something. They don't care.
And they do dinners, I think, regularly there. I think there's maybe one night a week that they don't do it, last I heard. So their hot dinners are available there for people that need it, right? And maybe some people will take advantage of that.
But I'm sure it's a low amount of people taking advantage.
Because if you can afford it, why would you want to just eat whatever they're handing out?
There's also a stigma associated.
Yeah, there is. And it's just, either way, it's just a warm meal. Like, whether you're, it's like, what level of destitute makes you deserve a hot meal?
If you want to weigh in and your thoughts on welfare, feel free. The number 603-283-6160. Maybe you've been on it and you got off, and you want to talk about what that experience was like and maybe how difficult the system actually made it through their incentives and their disincentives that they sort of program into it. Feel free to join us at 603-283-6160. But the best solution is to get rid of government welfare, get rid of the coercion, and as Bonnie points out, that may actually result in more choices. Like, for instance, in Keene, it's a town of 18,000, 20,000 something people. There's only one food bank. There doesn't probably need to be more than one, but maybe there would be, perhaps. Or maybe more people would just donate more to the existing facility. Maybe more people would be generous because they knew, because some people use the government as their excuse to not give to charity. It's like,
I voted Democrat for the common good. So, and then I'm getting taxed, so the government's taking care of that.
Yeah. In fact, there have been studies that have shown that, whether you believe it or not, supposedly people on the right are more generous than people that are on the left.
I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah. The number here is 603-283-6160. You can join the show. You can talk about welfare, music, whatever is on your mind here in the remaining moments of Free Talk Live that are coming up.
Free Talk Live.
The town wants him to stop. So he's charged with a misdemeanor and could spend 6 months in jail. 71 years old.
Nice folks there.
He's
wouldn't let
blind. That's his source of living.
Blind old man sell some firewood out of his front yard. Nice.
So now you're looking at having to go out, get a firewood permit, which is going to cost you X amount of dollars a year, and who knows how much research to try and figure out how to get the permit.
Just then doing whatever they can to stop industry.
Yeah, then you have to go and get your education so you can actually run the saw, and then you have to get a variance on your property so you can actually sell the firewood from your property. Oh, and don't forget, if you have a storefront, then you have to pay, $500, $600, $700 a month in rent, maybe $4,000 a month in rent, depending on what city you live in.
Gotta have an occupational license, too.
Aggression like this by these government people happens all across the country, and you have to ask, how much more are you willing to put up with before you finally say no?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. The phones are open and you can join us here. Bring up whatever is on your mind. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Moments remain, but enough time for your thoughts. Whether you want to talk about people and their musical preferences or whatever, it's where we've been talking about. But I think we got through that story. Did you ladies have anything further you wanted to say about it?
Probably not. No, I think we covered it pretty well.
I know that both of you are very concerned with eating well. You guys look at, food labels. You're very concerned with getting the right stuff in your body. And
it's just a bad day that you keep saying that about me because I was drinking a Red Bull at the beginning and I never do.
Bonnie's being naughty today.
I was being naughty and now I'm about to eat some lo mein.
It's all right. You're allowed to have this.
There's nothing wrong with Chinese food. Chinese food's not bad for you.
Okay, Ian.
MSG is not what they say that it is.
Ian thinks MSG is not bad for you, but at least I got him to stop eating soy and high fructose corn syrup. I'm sure it's in what we're about to eat.
It's the little wins, right?
But I honestly, I'm not too hard on myself for eating it once in a while because
moderation.
I eat so much less than the average person of soy, high fructose corn syrup.
One thing you can't do is rely on the government to tell you what to eat. And, you've looked at, remember when I don't know, maybe you guys didn't have this when you were growing up, but when Matt and I, he's in the room, our Thursday night co-host Matt, when we were growing up, they had what they called the food pyramid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they still have that. I think they updated
it upside down like 15 years ago or something.
Did they?
It used to be like a pyramid where the bottom was the largest
and
part.
it was like grains.
Yeah.
Grains, then fruits and veggies, then meats.
I remember hearing that they flipped it, reversed it or something like that.
So now candy?
They turned it upside down. I don't remember all the details. I just remember hearing that. Well, now the Food and Drug Administration announced new rules for nutrition labels that can go on the front of food packages to indicate that they are quote-unquote healthy. Under the proposals, manufacturers can label their products healthy if they contain a meaningful amount of food from at least one of the food groups or subgroups recommended by the dietary guidelines.
So bagels, healthy because it's bread.
I mean, you could say literally any food is healthy then. Well, even they've been doing it for years with the low fat, low calorie diet food. Yeah, and really it's super toxic and it actually makes you bloated and
I noticed on the hot fries, the Andy Caps hot fries that I brought home for Ian, just because I wanted to get Ian something, it says low fat on it.
Yeah, low
high
fat.
Sodium.
Yeah, not good for you food, no doubt.
No.
Libertariat, by the way, in our chat room at chat.freetalklive.com points out that they didn't turn the pyramid upside down. It is now a plate.
Yeah, it's my plate, and that's what
Yeah, I hadn't even seen the my plate thing.
Yeah, so I think they rolled that out probably while I was still in school. But I do remember the pyramid. I was in school for that switch, and it's just, and it kind of does. I guess the my plate makes a little bit more sense because it shows you how to portion your food. I think it's pretty accurate, but what they're missing is all of the little details, right? So soy, I mean, they're still telling people that vegetable oil is healthy where it gets rancid on the shelves and it's super toxic for your body. Seed oils are super toxic. All of these things are actually carcinogenic. They're giving people cancer. All of the genetic modification, all of the pesticides and the weird chemicals they're putting in our food. My plate addresses none of that.
Well, because they don't want to go against the big box manufacturers.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
Those are the people that pay they give the donations to the
politicians.
politicians.
Because corn oil and soy oil is subsidized. And
That's true too, right?
in everything.
So they must also adhere. So now they're talking about labeling things as healthy. They're talking about giving these same corporations the ability to put the word "quote unquote" healthy on the front of their packaging.
That's ridiculous. At least like some people will be able to see through that and just like laugh at their Snicker bars saying healthy or whatever. But
you know
I'm
what?
sure lots of people won't.
I feel like the majority of people don't even care. They don't care if stuff's healthy. The majority of people eat McDonald's every day, and so if something says healthy, they're gonna completely disregarding the labels and the nutrition facts altogether. I firmly believe the majority of people don't care about how much protein they're getting in a day. They don't care about how much sugar or salt is in their food. They just eat whatever they want.
There are going to be some people that will look at it and say, oh, well, this is healthy.
Yeah.
And that's as far as they're going to go.
Like when I was a kid, I remember us starting to eat margarine and my mom eating, I can't believe it's not butter because she wanted to lose weight.
Ooh.
Yep,
And it's
same
like-
with my parents. They started drinking skim milk and margarine, and
skim milk too.
It was a dark time.
They also must adhere to certain limits for certain nutrients, such as saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars. For example, a cereal would need to contain 3/4 of an ounce of whole grains and no more than 1 gram of saturated fat, 230 milligrams of sodium, and 2.5 grams of added sugars per serving for the food manufacturer to be able to use the word healthy on the label. The labels are aimed at helping consumers more easily navigate nutrition labels and make better choices at the grocery store. The proposed rule would align the definition of the healthy claim with the current nutrition science, they claim, and the nutrition facts label that's apparently been updated and the current dietary guidelines for Americans. According to the FDA, the agency is also developing a symbol that companies can voluntarily use to label food products that
for a
meet the
fee.
federal guidelines for the term healthy.
It's the same thing as organic. It's like, if you pay us some money,
then you can do it.
This is organic.
The announcement came ahead of Wednesday's White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. It was the first of its kind since 1969. Well, you know the government cares. They're going to talk about hunger, nutrition, and health. And you know what? You shouldn't believe a word these people say.
No, absolutely not.
They have all the wrong interests. They have all the moneyed interests behind them. And these people are just, they're concerned with control. They're not concerned with
your
how
health.
healthy
It's also
you are.
ironic that a bunch of like fat, unhealthy people are going to tell me what's healthy.
That is funny, isn't it? Like, bureaucrats are known for being overweight.
Yeah.
Tax feeders.
And how many times have we seen these images of these health, quote unquote,
like health ministers, and
that
they're
are,
like obese,
humongously obese.
Yeah,
and just like look unhealthy, like just in the the eyes.
Considering you're 500 pounds, I'm gonna take no advice from you ever.
Let's go to the phones here. I think we have Jack on the line in Washington State. Go ahead, Jack.
Just a short statement. I like 60s, 70s, 80s hit music mainly.
Okay.
But can you hear me?
We got you loud and clear.
Yeah, Lady Gaga's Bad Romance. I mean, I went golfing with my buddies. You know, we're just rocking that stuff.
That's a great golf song.
It's a great song in general.
It is.
It's something you said is interesting to me because one thing about a lot of music that is outside of the genres that I listen to is like I like a lot of hits, but then I won't be able to get into the rest of it at all. So like I like the song Closer by 9 Inch Nails a lot, but I would never listen to any other song by them. I don't know why. Like if there's something about that song, it's like a hit and I'll listen to that. There's lots of bands like that where I love a hit by them and would never listen to, like if I even tried to listen to something else by them, I'm just turned off. And I think it has something to do with like I just want to relate to the band, but I can once in a while identify a hit song that's just like perfect, you know, a masterpiece, like Closer by 9 Inch Nails.
Jack, anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I like 9 Inch Nails, but you know, I don't even. Only song I know is the one that Johnny Cash covered.
Hurt.
Pound.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait, they covered Johnny Cash, or Johnny Cash covered 9 Inch Nails?
Johnny Cash covered 9 Inch Nails.
He
I thought he was like
but
dead.
Well, this was a while ago, but it it feels like a Johnny Cash song, and even the lead singer of Nine Inch Nails, I forget his name,
Trent
but he
Reznor.
was
Trent
like,
Reznor,
no,
yeah.
this is a Johnny Cash song. Like, he did it so good that even Nine Inch Nails was like, yeah,
We give it
that's
up.
his song. Yeah.
Thanks, Jack, for the call tonight. Appreciate it. So one more interesting point here from this story at MSN. What constitutes quote-unquote healthy food is, of course, a thorny topic among nutrition experts. Would foods high in what many scientists call good fats, such as those that contain almonds or avocados, be deemed unhealthy, whereas artificially sweetened fruit snacks or reduced-fat sugary yogurts
I
might
see
be
too many
considered
fat
healthy?
girls putting fruit snacks in their shopping carts because they think it's healthy. Oh, it has fruit in it.
Do they?
I see
ridiculous.
it constantly.
Honestly, it just sounds like natural selection, kind of. It's like, if you think that's healthy, then have fun being healthy.
Yeah, and if you think you can trust the FDA and the federal government to know what's right for you. Remember, these are the same people that wanted to put an experimental vaccine into people's arms.
Well, the same people that wanted to put the experimental vaccine into their bodies because the government told them to do it, that are going to buy things from the middle aisles in grocery stores that just because they say healthy on them.
So do your own research, make up your own mind, and I think more importantly, trust your own body and your own experience more so than what some expert tells you. See you tomorrow night online. In the meantime, you can join us at freetalklive.com.
I'm off to eat lo mein.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service?